Could you please give the invocation?
I have somebody come up with a county, I know.
Well, Madam Mayor, Council, everyone, good evening. Before I come every month, I think about what to share with you all without specifically thinking of the agenda items at hand. And I thought tonight there could be a few more fitting words than to be reminded of the words of Jesus when he was asked by a leader what is the most important guidance that we could consider. And Jesus responded, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. And secondly, you shall love your neighbor as yourself." And so let's pray together. Almighty God, to you all hearts are open. You who know not only our actions, but the thoughts and then the intents of our hearts. You made us to love you, that we would affectionately seek you as Father, and so serve you with every breath that you have graciously given us. We owe you our total allegiance as the one who has made us and numbered our days. And in calling us to love you, you have also called us to love one another, even our enemies as ourselves. And so we thank you for your goodness and mercy every day in our lives and in this city that you care for even more than any one of us can. And as we look for your blessing tonight upon the work of this council, I pray that you would enable each one here, in whatever capacity they serve, to discern your call upon their lives. So may each one of us hear your call to honor you above all others and to put the interests of others ahead of our own. Lord, we thank you for this country, the United States of America. We thank you for the freedoms that we enjoy by our government and Constitution, though imperfect, both good and blessed. We thank you for every woman and man whom you have gifted and appointed to serve our community. Please give them by your grace the humility to seek your wisdom, and please give to them the understanding and ability to make decisions that would bring about a true love of neighbor and the prosperity and safety of this community and its people. May we not turn from truth and wisdom or from goodness and justice. May Freeport be a place where people are committed to live in good and right relationship to each other, which can only be by your grace.
Yes.
And so I ask in the name of Christ our Savior. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you. So now we will officially call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Mayor Miller,
Here.
Alderpersons Clem,
Here.
Monroe,
Here.
Simmons, Parker is absent, Stacy,
Here.
Shadle,
Here.
Sanders,
Here.
and Sellers.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. And if you could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Alderman Stacy. Item number 1 is approval of the agenda. Is there such a motion?
So move.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Sellers. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? That motion passes. Item number 2 is approval of the minutes from the regular meeting on September 5th, 2023. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
A motion made by Alderman Shadle, seconded by Alderman Sellers. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Item number 3 is public comments. We have quite a few, and I apologize if I don't get your names correctly. Our first one will be read by the clerk.
Received by email from Lou Ann Stanbaugh Hayes this afternoon. Dear members of the Freeport City Council, I know you are voting on the 1% sales tax increase to fix the city streets tonight. Although this is nothing you want to deal with, the voters of Freeport have entrusted you to represent them in this vote. You are voting on the future of our community. Shame on the elected officials from the past 40 years who did not take care of the streets or plan for today. If the roads were maintained as they should have been over the past 4 decades, we may not have tonight's discussion and a vote on an additional 1% sales tax increase. However, those elected officials failed the citizens of Freeport, and now it is up to you to do what is best for the community. Itemized items. A 1% sales tax increase means an additional 7.5 cents on a Joe's large carry-out pizza. A 1% sales tax increase means $2 additional on the $200 worth of Christmas gifts from Walmart. A 1% sales tax increase means your McDonald's extra value quarter pounder with cheese meal will increase by 9 cents. Is our Freeport, Illinois community not worth this small expenditure to fix our roads? When will we come together to do something positive for our current community and the one we are leaving for our children and grandchildren? I am a fifth-generation Freeporter, and I love this community. I was taught to leave an area or neighborhood better than I found it. We must work as a team to achieve this goal. It is our legacy. Now is the time to do the right thing. Was it fair to make this debate political in the past few weeks? No, in caps, it was not. This is not a political issue. It is a community issue. And we are putting our trust in you, the Freeport City Council, to do the right thing for the community. I am asking for your vote on the 1% sales tax increase. If you came to this meeting with the intention to vote no, I pray that you also came with another option to repair our city streets. I have faith in our community to see that a slight tax increase could be very beneficial to our city streets. No one wants to raise taxes, but sometimes it is right for our community. Thank you, Luann Stambaugh Hayes, Ward 4 resident.
Thank you. The second person that signed up is Bill Wagner. If you could please limit yourself to 3 minutes. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Bill Wagner. I live at 550 Rye Ridge Court, Freeport, Illinois. I have a situation that I'd like to discuss with the City Council. I have a walking path behind my condo, used by many people daily, year-round. The only problem with this is that when they put this in, they put some of it on private property by mistake. When I purchased my condo, I was told it was going to be moved off the private property. This has been known by the city and by the developer for over 3 years. My question is, why hasn't this happened yet? A year ago, a relief was cut out of the path, about 6 foot wide, 8 inches deep. 2 small barriers and then some caution tape were placed there. The opening was made to prevent any more flooding in 2 of the properties. I have people ask me on a weekly basis, when will this be taken care of? So my question is there a timetable for this to be completed? The other is the sales tax issue. I'm not opposed to the 1 cent sales tax because it applies to residents and non-residents on any of the purchases we have. My only question is, I thought the 10 cents on gas tax in Freeport was supposed to cover road repair. And I'll quit there. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mike Mead? We have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Aldermen and alderwomen, I'd like to take a moment before I begin, especially for the city's new leadership, to thank you for deciding to hold a seat that heavily dictates our city's future. I don't believe it's an easy position to hold, and the compensation for your time that you give to do this falls short. So once again, thank you. My name is Mike Mead, and I live in Freeport, specifically downtown, for 16 years. Not only live in downtown, but heavily invested in the future of our downtown. Over those years, the administration has changed many times, and I have witnessed some very short-sighted decision-making. The impact of those decisions has had a lasting effect on our community, while the deciding people at that time have moved on. We all make mistakes in life, and that's okay if we're learning from the mistakes and make a choice not to repeat them. Many times I've wondered, why have we not learned? I 100% support the city raising the sales tax. I've spoken to others about the issue, and I can tell you without a doubt, there's a misunderstanding of what purchases the increase will and will not affect. As both an investor and a resident in this city, I have needs. I need my city to be safe. I need a city that's proactive in repairs. I need a city that quiets the constant complaint of potholes, and I drive an F-250. Nobody feels the potholes in this town more than I do. I'd like to remind the people, when I hear a pothole complaint, that if that's the worst thing that you encounter in a day in this town to get a lotto ticket, I would also ask any person that complains to me where they buy gas. The answer never surprises me, and I inform them that if they purchased fuel in our city, we would not have as many potholes as we do, and I thank them for contributing to the problem that they are complaining about. I need a city with a leadership that understands the cost of deferred maintenance does not go away, it does not decrease. I need a forward-thinking city to not leave problems for the next generation of leadership or its citizens, which unfortunately previous administrators and leadership did not have the foresight to understand, and that's why we're discussing the sales tax increase today. Our city cannot operate on fumes. Our city cannot continue to put issues off. Greatness is never half off or discounted. I support this decision, and I can make an informed opinion on this because I understand what it will cost our city later if we do not. Nobody likes a tax. I don't like paying triple the gas bill I used to pay pre-pandemic, but I pay for it because I must have heat. I don't like paying 4 times the building material prices I used to, but if I want to make improvements, that's the cost of materials to fix things. In comparison to recent inflation, 1% or 2% seems rather low, and I must understand that there's a cost to operate a city with services to meet my needs when there's an accumulation of deferred maintenance. So on the way out of my house today, my son asked me if I'm going to go and speak at City Council. I said yes. He asked me, was I nervous? And I said no. He asked me, he goes, well, what if people boo you? I told him it doesn't matter, I'd be unbothered. I told him Michael Jordan was a great basketball player and not everyone liked him, and some people from the bleachers would boo at him too. Michael Jordan, though, was actively playing the game, not the people booing. And in the end, it didn't stop Michael from scoring some of the most amazing slam dunks that never would have happened if he stopped because of a boo. If this was an easy decision, it would have been made a long time ago. The same people who complain about this tax will be the same people who will complain about the city not fixing potholes. The emptiest of vessels make the loudest noise when you bang them, but a filled one is much more quiet. Please make your decision based off the value of your community, the people that are in the game, our children's future, and the future leadership. I appreciate your time to hear me speak, and I hope you will understand this is the right decision, although not easy, to vote in favor of the sales tax increase. Thank you.
Next, is it Molly? I'm sorry if that's not correct.
No, well, that's my name. I don't know if I'm the next one. I'm Molly Doolittle, a Freeport native, and I live at 1340 West Stover Street. And I'm concerned about the resolution for the leaf logo on our water tower. And Linda Locascio, who's with me, is going to say some more about that. And I really, the pretzel is it's unique, and I think it should be established instead of the leaf. And I also wish we could get copies of the agenda online before the weekend before. It would be nice if we had them a week ahead so we could make plans to come and either be in favor of things and so forth or not. And we'd also like lately the recordings have kind of not been to the end of the meeting, and maybe there's something wrong with the machine. We'd like to hear the recordings of the meetings on our devices. Thank you very much for letting me speak.
Thank you. And then Linda?
Hi, I'm Linda Locascio. I live at 1318 South Benson Boulevard here in Freeport. And I just heard about the water tower having the logo changed to leaves rather than Pretzel City. And I would ask that you keep the Pretzel logo. It's special, it's unique, and it stands out. My children have had many conversations with friends and coworkers over the years that are always surprised about a Pretzel logo, but they are really interested in our history and having the Pretzel name. So they are very proud of being from Pretzel City. I would also ask if the water tower needs repairing at this time to keep it in good repair. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. And the next person, I'm going to totally butcher your name, so if whoever wrote their name after Linda? George, maybe? I'm not sure. Is that yours? Agenda related or not? Well, I can't read that either, so what were you want to, was it on the agenda or no?
Was regarding extension of the metro from Freeport to Rock.
Then that would have to be a non-agenda item. Okay, thank you. And then last, Bernie.
Yeah, Bernie Mrugala, 1310 South Galena, Freeport resident. My issue with the sales tax is not the percent, it is the project itself. When I looked at what we're looking at, it's $20 million over the next 3 years. Using those figures, I've come up with almost $470 million of reconstructed work based on the 60% and 40%. Because it's reconstruction comes to about $1,090 a foot. When I looked at the mill and overlay for the remaining 40%, that came up to about 47. This is covering 139 miles of road within the city. I think we ought to be looking at the entire project going forward so we're not totally misled. We're taking a bite out of this apple right now. I totally support the 1%, but I would like to see a more detailed plan going forward, more than 3 years, maybe 5 to 10 years, so that we can do this city justice. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. That concludes public comments. So we will move on to item number 4, which is the consent agenda. The consent agenda is considered to be routine in nature and acted as one motion unless a member of council would like to have something removed for further discussion. Consent agenda consists of approving to receive and place on file the board and commission minutes from the Library Board of Trustees dated June 14th and July 12th, 2023, the Liquor Commission from July 13th and August 10th, proclamation for National Rail Safety Week, September 18th to the 24th, the Fire Department report, which is August 2023, the Police Department report, August 2023, and the Building Permit report, August 2023. Also is the approval of assignment and assumption of the redevelopment note regarding JJ Freeport Venture 1 ILLC, the approval to open a bank account to hold public transportation funds, the approval of the 2024 holiday schedule, the approval of the 2024 City Council and Committee of the Whole schedule, the approval of the finance bills payable in the total of $4,234,112.32, and the approval of payroll for pay period ending August 26, 2023, in the total of $590,114.21. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Shadle, seconded by Alderman Clem. Madam Clerk, could you please, I'm sorry?
No, can we remove one of the items, or is that too? Or do you need a discussion? I just wanted to ask about the approval of assignment and assumption of redevelopment. I don't know what that is. I just want to understand what that is before I vote on it.
Okay.
Okay. Can somebody just, I guess, tell me what the approval and assignment and assumption of redevelopment note regarding JJ Freeport Venture? Is it I or one or LLC? I don't know what it is.
Manager?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to hand the floor over to Wayne Duckman, Community Development.
Thank you. Alderperson Sellers, essentially what you have here is JJLE is the person, human being developer, and for Joanne Fabrics, he got into a redevelopment agreement, and he's changing the name of his company from one company to another. So I don't know the reasons why he's did it, but it's the same it's the same person. They're changing the name of their LLC.
Thank you.
So we have a motion made by Shadle, seconded by Clem. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Stacy.
Aye.
Shadle.
Aye.
Sanders.
Aye.
Sellers.
Aye.
Clem,
Aye.
Monroe,
Aye.
and Simmons.
Aye.
The motion passes 7-0.
Item number 5 is the first reading of ordinance 2023-43. Could you please read this?
Ordinance authorizing sale, donation, and/or disposal of certain personal property owned by the city. This one is for the police department, miscellaneous squad car parts, office furniture, etc.
Did we pull 5?
We skipped.
Oh, did I miss a tab?
Oh, my.
Ordinance 43. Is it 43, Mayor? Okay, sorry about that. Ordinance amending Chapter 482 off-street parking lots and Chapter 486 winter parking regulations of the codified ordinances of the City of Freeport regarding parking by residents of the Central Business District and city lots.
Thank you. Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Your Honor. As we discussed at the Committee of the Whole last week, the current codified ordinances authorize 3 parking lots where overnight parking is allowed, provided the user has purchased a parking permit and parks in the designated areas. However, over time, parking placards have not been enforced, and there are currently no parking placards issued. Most of the downtown street parking is restricted to 3 hours or less. Staff would like to amend the various sections of the codified ordinances to allow downtown residents to purchase 24-hour parking permits in 8 of the 9 city-owned lots. Overnight parking will not be allowed in Lot 12, which is leased by the Newell Company. So staff is requesting council move this forward to second reading, move ordinance 2023-43 to the second reading.
Is there such a motion?
Make a motion to put it on the table?
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Sellers to move ordinance 2023-43 on to the next scheduled meeting. Discussion.
Madam Mayor?
Alderman Clem.
First of all, I want to make sure that from our discussion last week at the cow that we make sure we get any thing that people want to add to it or subtract it. One of my concerns that I have is I know of a vehicle that's parked downtown in one parking place, and it's an owner of a building downtown, and therefore with that vehicle sitting there all day, it takes away from patrons coming in and out of other businesses. Will this, in our mind, it will help alleviate that, but is there anything we can do to force that or force those ordinance otherwise?
Manager.
Actually, Alderman Clem, this is basically requiring people to move every 24 hours. At the Committee of the Whole, there was a discussion about extending that for folks that live in the downtown and don't want to necessarily move their car every 24 hours. So I think that's a council's prerogative. Staff will make adjustments to the ordinance, however is best.
And that's in parking lots, not on the street. They can't
Yes,
park
this
on
is
the
in
street for
parking lots.
24 hours.
Right, understand that, but we currently, I was in business 30 years ago downtown. This was a problem 30 years ago. So, we didn't get it overnight, okay? But I'm just saying, is there any way we can encourage our law, and Craig does a fine job, Ted did a fine job. There's no question in that whatsoever. But, there's some vehicles that people are employed downtown and use it to park in front of their business or the business next door, which can either enhance or hurt the business. I'm just saying, can you guys talk among yourselves if there's something that you can come up with that we can figure out to help this a little more? All I'm saying is I'd like to encourage that a little bit. Otherwise, I think we're on target. It does an excellent thing during the winter time when it comes time to plowing downtown and everything else. So, thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Sanders.
extending that comment you made, Brother Clem, is that when it comes to the involvement of the snow plowing, and is it in a municipal parking lot?
Did you go ahead if you want to answer?
Yeah, if you'll allow me to jump in, yes, there's a 72-hour, you have to get out of the parking lot for 72 hours during a snow emergency, and that's declared by the Public Works Director.
But doesn't that also disrupt the flow of the city workers when they have to plow those areas?
If the vehicles are there, this ordinance carries forward with our current policy if they have to be moved, for 72 hours, so we get in there and clean out the parking lots. So it's written in here the way I want it written for public works, so we can have efficient removal of snow from the municipal lots.
Can there also be some kind of sign posted that allows the car owner the opportunity to move the vehicle during snow time, snow hours or whatever?
Yes, we do during snow emergencies, we do notify via, newspaper, website. We do various forms of notification, and that includes, I believe we can do code red as well, so that goes out to anybody who signed up for code red. But as far as more notification, yeah, we can add a sign there.
Are those attendees, I should say, are they under the city ordinances where they can be ticketed if they over? Because those vehicles have to be marked in order to determine how long they've been there.
Right. Well, if we issue a snow emergency and they are there like 24 hours later, they can be towed. And we will do that if we need to. Most of the time we don't need to. And,
yeah,
if it's not a humongous problem, where, it would have to be a pretty big problem for us to really crack down on that.
Yeah, okay.
Alderman Clem?
Just a follow-up. I know years ago when this was started out and then it's basically started up and failed, one person might be somebody you talk to would be sitting here in the audience is Mr. Mead. Before there was a lot of problems with the people that lived downtown and tenants that lived downtown basically had no place to go when there was snow plowing and stuff. So this was originally brought up that, hey, if we can park in the parking lots for a period of time, it gives you a safe time to clean the street and that kind of stuff. So maybe we just ought to check, as we know it doesn't have to be done tomorrow, but we're moving it forward, and now I guess is the time to add this. So, thank you.
Alderman Sellers?
I would just like some clarification on, I know they have to buy have to purchase a sticker, but I know we also talked about last week on if they were out of town or if they were sick or whatever, that there was something that was put in there to where they have to make note that they're out of town or whatever, so that the residents know that we're not just saying that if you're not moved with 72 hours, but if you're out of town or something, just let us know and then we could take care of it. Okay.
Where is that?
No longer than 1 week.
Oh,
Well, she's talking about during the summer.
yeah.
Like if somebody parked there, and like I said, we
Okay. No, I just want the people to know that, we're not just saying if we want to let them know that we have compassion if you're sick or out of town, that we will make note of that. We won't tow your car or ticket it.
Okay, we have a motion to move this forward, so we'll move on to item number 6, which is the first reading of ordinance 2023-44. Could you please read this?
Read it again. Ordinance authorizing sale, donation, and/or disposal of certain personal property owned by the city. The police department has miscellaneous squad car parts, office furniture, etc.
Thank you. Chief Schenberger?
The Freeport Police Department is in possession of outdated and unusable property taking up space at the Freeport City Yards at 1001 North Island Avenue and Freeport Central Fire Station at 1650 South Walnut Avenue that needs to be disposed of. This is in line with the strategic plan for responsive and efficient government. Recycling and disposing of accumulated property that can no longer be utilized will free up storage areas at the city yards and Central Fire. The property listed for destruction consists of old squad car equipment that is in poor condition for vehicles no longer in service. Also listed is miscellaneous property that can be sold as scrap. There's metal shelving units at Central Fire, which were donated to the police department, and there's no room to install the shelves. The office equipment listed for destruction was also donated to the PD many years ago and is in poor condition. All of these items are taking up space that can be better utilized for storage. This won't require any funding, and staff is requesting to recycle as much of the unusable property as possible and dispose of whatever is left. And there's a list of property attached to this.
Thank you. Is there a motion to move this forward?
So move.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Sellers. Discussion on this ordinance.
Can we get a good deal on the hood or the trunk? I just want to comment, this, is something that's done on a yearly basis, if not more, with many of the departments. But it's amazing when you look over the list of what you can end up with that you have absolutely no use for and is no good to most everybody. So, thank you for doing that and put the funds back in the kitty.
Thanks. We'll move on to the first reading of ordinance 2023-45. Could you please read this?
Ordinance approving a variation application at 1257 West Stover, submitted by Andrew Scott to seek relief from section 1268.07A, which reads, no detached accessory building shall be closer than 10 feet to the principal building in an R4 one-family residence district, and suspension of the rules is being requested.
Thank you. Director Duckman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Staff received a permit application on July 18th for an accessory structure, which is the garage. And due to the layout of the applicant's lot, their lot lines, and it being a narrow lot, a variation is required in order to have the setback between the existing building and the garage. It has to be less than 10 feet, and the petitioner has requested that the setback be 5 feet in order to make it so that they can have a garage. They currently are parking on a driveway, and they'd like to have a garage to park in, and due to their lot being narrow, they're asking to build a one-stall garage, and they need this variation in order to build the garage so they can have covered parking. So on September 7th, the City of Freeport Zoning Board of Appeals, they recommended approval of the petitioner's request by a vote of 4-0 with 0 abstentions. And on September 14th, the City of Freeport Planning Commission also recommended approval by a vote of 5-0 with 0 abstentions. And in line with the Zoning Board of Appeals and Planning Commission, staff recommends approval of this ordinance. And I wanted to also mention, it's on the agenda, that there is a request for suspension of the rules. The petitioner, who has gone through the proper permitting process, would like to get this built this year, and if it goes on another meeting, it could affect the pouring of their concrete floor, roofing, et cetera. So there's a request for suspension of the rules.
Is there a motion to move this forward?
So move.
Second.
A motion made by Alderman Sellers, seconded by Alderman Shadle. Is there discussion? Alderman Stacy?
Yes, where is this at?
Okay, it's, the address is 1257 West Stover.
Alderman Shadle?
I took a drive by there on the way to the meeting tonight. It's kind of a unique situation where most of the houses on the south side of Stover sit up on a little bit of a hill, and they're long, narrow lots, and 90% of them are to the front of the lot at the crest of the hill. Some have garages underneath the house. A couple of them have it adjacent to the house. But the majority of them, the garages are off of the alley in the back. This particular house, the only one in the block, is actually positioned at the back of the lot on the alley. The parking pad that they're using now is adjacent to the house, and it's open parking. It's just a slab that they're parking on. I don't see that there's anything with the fact that the house is already on the alley that would be detrimental to this having a garage closer than 10 feet to it to have the parking. It would be in the back at the alley also.
Madam Mayor?
Alderman Clem?
I like Alderman Shadle. I drove down that street one day and I saw that big sign in the yard, and the first thing I thought was, what the hell is this doing here? And I looked back and I saw, my God, here's this house at the complete back of the lot with the whole front lawn forward. The only thing I would like to have different was maybe, and I know you've got it someplace, was a picture drawn up where the garage was gonna be, but Greg pretty well described it there, but you talk about a unique situation and a bad deal, this guy's got one.
It's up, yeah, yep, it's up there. I cue the music. I put that up there. You can see how it's gonna be 5 feet. It's gonna be right off that parking pad. And that's kind of explains exactly what you're talking about, Alderperson Clem. You can see there's the existing house, and there's a garage to the east of it, and it's going to be 5 feet from the existing residence.
And when you say it's, you know, a one-stall garage, it's a one-stall garage because there's no roof. I agree, you know.
It's unfortunate. He's in an unfortunate situation. I mean, there's not much they can do.
I normally wouldn't do this, but considering the situation, I would make a motion to suspend the rules.
Is there a
Second.
second? Alderman Shadle? All right, we have a motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Shadle for suspension of the rules. Suspension of the rules is non-debatable and must pass by a 2/3 majority. Madam Clerk, could you please take the vote on the suspension only?
Stacy? This is just on the suspension, ma'am.
Aye.
Shadle?
Aye.
Sanders?
Aye.
Sellers?
Aye.
Clem?
Aye.
Monroe?
Aye.
And Simmons.
Aye.
The suspension passes 7-0.
And now before you would be the second reading for ordinance 2023-45. Unless there's further discussion. Alderman Stacy?
Yes, I just want to say, you know, these ordinances are put together for a reason. And I understand under these circumstances. However, there's going to be another circumstance. And my only concern would be that we be open and fair, because someone else is going to come forward and they're going to want something and they're going to need something. And so if we waive it this time, the time is going to come and we're going to have to waive it again. So what is really the true meaning of having all these ordinances if they could just be written off? Written off.
You mind if I?
Is that, yeah, I did not,
So that's why they're called variances, and that's why there's two committees that they have to go through before they come to you. Director Duckman, did you want to?
no, I was just gonna say, I know you guys voted down in variation since you've been on council, so you don't always vote for them either. So, I mean, there's been instances where you have voted against them. So, I mean, we go through, everybody's treated fairly. You present the application. In the memo, I say when the application was presented, the date of the zoning board, the date of the planning commission, always fair. You come in, you want the variation, I'll guide you through the process and present. I feel I give a fair presentation for every variation at every hearing in the process.
Alderman Stacy?
One variance that was voted down was a sign. And yes, it was voted down. And if another one come up, I trust that it too will be voted down in spite of the circumstances. And I'm not saying I'm not for this or that I am against this. I'm just saying, when opportunity knock again, if we do it for one, we do it the same across the board. That's all I'm saying.
Madam Mayor?
Alderman Clem?
I'd just like to add, if you'd asked me to take the vote on this afternoon, I'd have told you no. Because I didn't understand it totally, number one, till the picture came up and Greg did, explained it. first envisioned this guy putting something in the front yard, and I said, oh my God, the two wrongs don't make a right here, and we got a bad deal. But the more I thought about this and it was presented, you know, it's really the guy's only out for this, and the only reason I went ahead with voting for the suspension was simply because of one thing. Being in the construction trade, we're at the end of September, and if he's going to pour concrete and wants it to last, he's talking about another month and a half, 2 months at the most, depending on what mix he uses and all that, and it could give him the opportunity to get that in.
He did request it as well. He called me and told me to put for that exact reason.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
And we are now taking the vote on final passage of the ordinance. Stacy?
Aye.
Shadle?
Aye.
Sanders?
Aye.
Sellers?
Aye.
Clem?
Aye.
Monroe?
Aye.
And Simmons? And the ordinance passes 7-0.
Then we'll move on to the next, is the second reading of ordinance 2023-40. Could you please read this?
Ordinance approving 1% increase in the home rule sales tax.
Thank you. Manager Boyer?
Thank you, Your Honor. So we have put together, at the request of the being able to fund a road program, a proposal for a 1% sales tax. This would apply to goods except for medical devices, food, and vehicle sales. This 1% tax would raise approximately $3.5 million, and that money would go to contractor-led paving, internal wages for our paving crews, utility infrastructure improvements, ADA ramps, and it would also go to materials. Our local crews have, we've worked with them to give them the capacity for paving. They've done a number of great jobs. And as mentioned, we have approximately 139 miles of road, and the pavement condition on a lot of them are in fair to poor condition. It is staff's estimate that we would be able to go through the town within 20 to 25 years and repave the roads in town with the idea that we have the infrastructure repaired underneath. With that being said, we've discussed this at the Committee of the Whole in August, council meeting in August, council meeting September, Committee of the Whole in September, and then tonight. So it is staff's recommendation that City Council approve ordinance 2023-40 and move forward with the 1% sales tax for a sustainable road program.
Madam Mayor.
Alderman Clem?
First, I'd be happy to start this out and say there's been some absolutely great letters come forward, suggestions from people coming forward about this, both pro and con, which it is. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. What's about it? You know, the one thing Manager Boyer didn't mention also on the list of things that was not talked about was there is no tax on groceries. As far as groceries that you buy to take home to eat yourself. If you buy their chicken that's already cooked, yes, you're going to get taxed on that, but on normal groceries it will not be taxed, okay? There's a couple things I'd like to clear up because there's been a lot of information come forward, and I think we have a lot of things to discuss yet and ask. And to me, with an alderman being gone tonight, to me, I would personally say, if it would be my choice, I don't think we should vote till all the aldermen are here. But that truthfully makes no difference, you know, but I'm just saying that everybody should have a say in it. A couple of the things that our lawyer brought up to me the other day that he mentioned, and I thank you for mentioning that because I went back and dug into it, on what you had listed of what was covered and what wasn't covered. I just want to clarify a couple things that I want to ask, and a couple things that people have brought up to me. Okay. One of them in your proposal, Mr. Zito, that you put in, repairs, reconstruction, and appendages there too. Could you add a little onto that as appendages there too? That sounds legal.
So the appurtenant is there too, so it says that it shall be used strictly for roadway repairs, reconstruction, and appurtenance is there too. So roadways, you know, some people, when they think of roadways, they think of just, let's say, the surface of the road, curb to curb, right? Well, there's base, you know, there's stone that goes underneath it, that's an appurtenance there too. I'm trying to think what else would be an appurtenant to a road. Sometimes that could be sidewalks, so we do call out sidewalks. Sometimes an appurtenant would be the water main underneath that particular road. If it's in bad repair, why would you tear up the road without doing the water main along with it? That could be deemed as an appurtenant there too. An appurtenant might be the striping, okay? It's not roadway work, right? But you obviously got to stripe the road when you're done, you know, stuff like that. So there are always going to be little ancillary things, and because you can't list every single thing out there that might be related to a road, reconstructing the road, we use that phrase appurtenant there too. So as long as, but it's still got to be appurtenant to a road repair or reconstruction.
Okay. Could I continue? Okay. The next one, if I could, one of the items that was listed, and so we all know that this 1% tax would not be used for paying off bonding that is already there. That is all accounted for. There would be no money for this going on to past bonds. So we're not all of a sudden going to take a bunch of money out of here and pay off something that was there, okay? The next item that comes up that we've asked for, and I've had it explained to me, but I want to make sure it's out here on the table for everybody, is payment of debt service for financed roadway repair and construction projects, okay? Now, would one of you guys say that, and then I'll give my comments or whatever, if that's okay?
Yes, I'd like to answer that. So it may come before in future projects where we may have a more extensive reconstruction in front of us. One example of that is what we're doing on Adams Avenue. Okay, that particular project is fairly expensive, but if we are planning to do road reconstruction projects that use 1 or 2 years worth of this funding source, we want the ability to be able to do that project and then, you know, repay whatever that cost of those, whatever the borrowing costs were from this. So essentially what I'm saying is if we have a couple-year project that's we could do today, but it's gonna cost us we're gonna have to pay that back over a couple years because we don't have all the funds in hand right now. So that was the idea. Obviously, it's not a great borrowing environment, and that's not something we would do. However, that may change in the future, and I don't want to tie the hands of council and our ability to do bigger projects by not specifically identifying that in the ordinance.
You want to follow up on that?
Sure, if I could. Now, the other part that's been brought up to me on this, I understand that, and I look at it, and you can look at it in two different ways, you know. One of the ways to look at that is that, now, we'll say a road that we haven't even worked on yet, but we know that's coming up. And we know another thing, that in these road projects, funding is gonna come from many different sources to do a road project, correct, Aaron? I mean, it's not necessarily, some of it will come from MFT, some of it will come from this 1% tax, some of it could come from CIP, depending on what kind of overlay it is, so it becomes a little more complicated. But one of the questions that somebody brought up, and we'll use Walnut Street, for example. Okay, we know Walnut Street is going to be over, if we're projecting getting $3.5 million in for funding, okay, that's going to be more than that. So if we're bonding that, or if we're having to borrow money for that, like we discussed, which we aren't going to do at 6% or whatever, but if somebody offers you a 1% bond from the government to do this, or 2%, it gives you the opportunity. But the concern is, by some people, that we don't want to get in the rears of paying this and paying it back. So, I mean, that's the question that some people have, and if that's the case, and the other thing, in any piece of road work that comes up whatsoever, whether it be a half a block, or whether it be a block, or whether it be 2 miles is it all has to come before the council before it can be spent. So in other words, if the council does not approve the project, whether it's from this 1% or whether it's from anything else, it won't be approved. So there has to be, everybody has to agree on this is what we want to do, okay? So that was the concern in borrowing, was the fact that, is there a chance of us getting us ahead of ourselves and all of a sudden we're owing $50 million to somebody for something, okay? Go ahead.
Yes, that's
If you're
correct.
gonna, I mean, you-
All the projects would have to be approved by council, just like all of our projects are approved by council. So each one of these initiatives, and Walnut is kind of an example, but a little there's a little Walnut's moving forward with a different funding source through STU. However, the point is made. All projects come before council, and if it's council's will to complete them, I don't want to tie their hands by not having this option within the ordinance for these funds.
So if that's the case, okay, if, I'm just using this example, if that portion of it will pulled out, the big thing that it would limit was any time you had to do future planning or future ability of going to somebody to get funding for a road, you'd have to come back to the council to see if they'd even approve it, correct?
Yes.
Alderman Sanders?
This would be something that'll be directed to the council. I'd like to make a substitute motion. Huh?
Oh, nothing.
Yeah, I'd like to make a substitute motion, which Attorney Aaron Zito will prefer to send these questions to public referendum. We need to have a discussion on the substitute, which will be a referendum for the public to be involved in the process. They need to be able to display their voting, their seriousness about being involved in these sales tax hike and all of these things, and we'd like to see how he would prefer to go about this. Aaron Zito, we want to know, before we put this question out there to a public referendum, we need more understanding for the people, and if you can make a determination on what you prefer to do, the public will be at your call.
Well, I guess I don't have a preference. It's really not my place to have a preference there. But if your position is that you want to put this conversation about an ordinance that would impose an additional 1% sales tax determined by the city council, you want to put that on pause there, and you would like to
put it to a referendum.
And put it to a referendum instead, then you can make a subsidiary motion right now to either postpone this, topic
Absolutely.
indefinitely, which would then kill it if there was support for there, or you could make an intervening motion to say that you would like to table this to a date certain, but in the interim, have staff look into the steps that are needed to put this to referendum, because there are steps. You can't just do this. You have to, have a ordinance or a resolution. The council has to adopt an ordinance or resolution wanting to put this to referendum first. So there's a steps. You just can't do that tonight.
Okay.
So
that's the reason why I brought it to your attention. I need to know the legal part of it, how we move about it, because I would like for it to go to a referendum, a public referendum, to address any questions that is concerning the people,
So if that's your goal, then you would need to make a motion to terminate this, and that would be a motion to postpone indefinitely. If there's a second and that vote is in favor, then this item would be postponed indefinitely, and then you would have to make a motion to have staff look into sending this to referendum. If that gets a second and
Yeah.
the council wants to move forward with a referendum.
That's what we want to do. That's
then-
what I like to see what happens. So if we can move, make a motion to move on that in a second, that's the purpose of me making that motion.
So the first motion would be tabled indefinitely?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we have a motion made by Alderman Sanders to table this indefinitely. Is there a second to that? Then the motion dies.
I have a question before we, so tabling it indefinitely is a necessary step for the second motion that he would like to bring to the table of putting it to public referendum? Or can we postpone it to a different date and then make the motion of taking the step?
I suppose you could postpone it to a date certain and then see if there's support for sending it to referendum. But the things are inherently different because obviously you only do one or the other, right? Because if you go over for referendum, then you can't have the city council vote on this. If you have the city council vote on this now, you're not going to go to referendum there. So I'm trying to keep it as clean as possible. This is a bit of a unique thing.
And I believe, wouldn't a referendum have to go on the next general, which would be November of '24?
I'd have to look into it there, but it might be available at just the next election.
But that would just be a city, don't referendums have to be on the big ballot?
I'd have to look into that, Mayor, but I don't believe so. My gut says probably no, but.
If not, you'd have to pay for it.
I guess, we'd have to look into that to determine exactly what's the soonest election that a referendum question could go on to.
Well, the first motion is not, there wasn't, that died.
I'd second it. At least put it to a vote.
Okay, so we have a motion
To postpone
to
indefinitely.
postpone indefinitely.
There was a second discussion.
So discussion on postponement only.
Yeah.
Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Do you,
Was there anybody that wanted?
Discussion?
Okay,
Yeah.
Alderman Stacy.
I am not sure that I understand this indefinitely.
It means he wants to kill it.
Yeah,
Kill
The ordinance to have the 1%
1%
sales tax.
tax, yeah.
Done.
And then we have to also discuss where the revenue funding is going to come to. See, I wanted to bring this to a discussion where we can have this opportunity. See, this is not the place to have these discussions, but no one is inquiring about other ways to have this discussion. And so we want to lay it out here before the general public to see if they had other alternatives. They was looking for other alternatives, and we're trying to provide them time, give more time to see what else we can come up with. Because right now, at the moment that I'm seeing and hearing, is that we're doing a rush job on this without clarity to the general public. That's the reason why the general public are listening to us very closely, and that they're shouting at their TVs or their telephones or radios or whatever the case may be. This is not what we want. We got too many poor people in this city to have these types of tax raises, 1% raises, and things like that. We do have that. We have those concerned citizens, and they're not part of this equation of this conversation that we're having.
Well, this is our, fifth or sixth discussion? And you can have more discussions without killing it.
Well,
Alderman Stacy?
I thought we were in the middle of discussions. And I don't know how we got from A to B when there's still so much out there to be discussed.
Yeah, and this is, excuse me, Stacy, and this is what the citizens want to be able to do. They want to be able to digest what it is that they're hearing and see if they can help us understand and help them to understand. Because right now, we're dealing with a 60, 20, and a 20 for a second plan for the discussion.
But
And
we haven't got there yet, honey.
no, we haven't, but,
You gotta let us get
I'm
there.
sorry, Attorney Zito.
okay.
Okay, so to address Alderman Stacy's question, and then I'm gonna maybe, in light of what you just said, Alderman Sanders, I'm gonna address a comment that you just made there. So we were in the middle of the discussion on the 1%, right, sales tax ordinance, right? So there was previously there have been motions and seconds, and we're at second reading tonight. Alderman Sanders made a motion to postpone indefinitely, and if you recall from that training class that we had, a motion to postpone indefinitely is basically the equivalent of killing the topic completely. No more discussion. Can't, it basically dies. That matter. The concept of a 1% sales tax by ordinance dies. Okay? That was seconded, so technically that's the motion right now that's on the table. So a motion to postpone indefinitely to kill this 1% ordinance. Okay? Alderman Sanders, I think though, based off of now what you just said about on behalf of your constituents and the citizens needing to find out more information, it's sounding like maybe now you're more not looking to kill this right now, but just not vote on it tonight, but have more discussions about it, maybe vote on it at a later date if like the referendum questions get answered, et cetera, and depending on how those go, but you're not necessarily looking to kill it, but just postpone it to a date certain so you can just have more discussion on it.
Because there are some other items that I want to mention, and where's the money is being allocated to, how is this divvied up to roads and unions, work employees of 20%, the union is 20%, and utility-related repairs to that. And we need to be able to determine whether or not, where did we get those numbers from? Why is it that those numbers has not been discussed to every item that is being listed that we talked about over the time? And why haven't we had a in-house meeting or board meeting or some sort to hash that out? Because we don't want per se, how did you come up with figures for employees, workers? Where did that 20 cent come in at the point of discussion? And not only that, public works, well, the roads and the public works, the utility related, where do we get those?
Well, I believe it was at your request, you asked for a breakdown, and that's the breakdown. So
Well,
that's
who's
answering
doing
your
the breaking
question.
down? We didn't discuss the breaking down. That has to go through council. And if we have not made a decision of the breakings of downs and getting clarification on that, then nobody should be breaking nothing down simply because we have not been properly quorum or to come to some kind of selective meeting to discuss the very things that we're trying to put through to the people. And this is the reason why, in my mind, it should be the people at a referendum, at a public referendum, making that vote to put their.
Okay, so my question to you, Alderman Sanders, is you put a motion on the floor to kill it. Do you want to keep that?
Well, no, I really don't want to keep it to kill it. I basically put it out there to let the people hear more questions.
Okay, so what you're really asking for is more discussion time.
More discussion time.
So would you like to remove your motion to kill it?
Yes.
Would you remove yours? Okay, so that's off the floor. Right now, we have the ordinance as it sits before you.
Right.
Alderman Stacy.
Okay. the people don't have no idea what we're talking about when we say 70, 10, 20, whatever. I was totally disappointed when I saw that only 60% of this 1% tax raise was going to our streets. 60% is not a lot. And it was 60% to the streets, 20% to the ASME union, and 20% to the utility. Utility. And we're just seeing this for the first time when we got it Friday. If I am not mistaken, am I correct or am I wrong? Had this 60-20-20 been out there before? Hello, somebody.
All right.
Manager, do you want to take that, or do you want?
Sure, I'd be happy to. The infographic that we put together was to help describe where the funding would go. After the last committee of the whole meeting, Director of Communications put together an infographic immediately following, or the next day, and we did send that out that day. It was posted on the city website. It was in the council packet for tonight, but it was also accessible at a number of different venues as well.
Okay. I am not happy with only 60% going to our roads. Also, I thought, ADA ramps, you've already said they will be costing at the least $7,000. There's grants and there's monies available for those things. So why should they come out of this 1%? Road repair and construction. Why should, because we just did Empire last summer, and why should this money, this 1% tax money, be used to go back and fix up on and repair Empire when we have our roads? As a matter of fact, I have an exact word: neglected residential streets. I thought this 1% was for neglected residential streets and repairs. Not repaving, not touching up, not fixing up. The ones that ain't been touched in 10, 12, 15, 20 years.
Alderman Shadle?
But if I had say so, and I believe I do, I believe it should be, I would like to see it 80 and 20, because the utility department has an account.
Exactly.
If they could pay $700,000 to have that leaf and that ball painted, they have money. I would like to see it 80-20. Our city employees do need raise. We're losing them to surrounding areas because they pay more. But I was not prepared when I saw 60% of this 1% only going to roads. And it cannot be for road repair and reconstruction on roads that's already been fixed. It needs to be for these neglected residential roads. This needs so much more discussion. It's so much more.
Manager Boyer, you want to chime in on that?
Yes. Alderman Stacy, just to mention the water tower, that's standard maintenance that we do every 10 to 15 years. The water tower has a program that's contributed to every year, and then every so many years it gets repainted. So recoating our water and waste, or our water tower, is important, because if we don't stop corrosion, then it's going to be much more expensive to fix it. Just to also comment on your other points, when we go to do road projects, the utility doesn't have a budget line item to replace a water main on a road that we decide to repave. So for instance, on East Center Street, that particular project we got into and realized that we had to line the sewer because there was 5 failed areas of the sewer. So these funds, the 20%, is for the buried infrastructure based on the road program that I provided to you in your council packet, and that is a rough estimate on what it is we plan to do in year 1, 2, and 3 as requested at the last council meeting. So if we don't put anything in for infrastructure, you have to keep in mind 60% of the city's water main is what's called spun cast water main. It was put in between 1930 and 1970. It accounts for almost all of our situations with water main breaks, and it needs to be replaced before we do any repaving. And that is why we need to have some money in there for water main replacements.
Did you have a follow-up with that,
Yes.
Stacy?
I believe the people were being asked for this 1% for roads, not water mains. I mean, we're gonna, between $15,000, $20,000 in ADA ramps, water mains, the other stuff that has to go inside. I mean, we're going to be without anyway. How do we not make it plain that it's not just about the roads, it's about the water mains, but there's other avenues that gives to that portion of the road. Why do it have to come out of this 1%? We were told we had no infrastructure. We needed to create an account for roads, not 10,000 ADA ramps, not gutters. And it's just been a little misleading. And so I just want the people to understand that you're proposing only 60% of this 1% go to roads, but it's not just roads, it's gutters, it's ADA ramps, it's water main breaks. We just had how many break this week or last week? And then we don't even have the manpower to do it within house. So now we got to pay more money and go out and get somebody to come back and do it because we don't have the manpower to even do it.
Manager Boyer, did you want to say something?
In my memo dated August 11, 2023, paragraph 3, I said the revenue from the tax increase will be allocated to key areas within the road program for its success: paving materials, manpower, curb gutter, ADA ramps, and contract paving work. Approximately 3/4 of the annual revenue for high-quality materials, labor, and contracts for reputable paving firms. So essentially what we're saying here is we've accounted for these things in the first memo presented on August 11th.
You can't tear it all up and leave the ramps gravel.
I understand, but get money for that. There's funding out there for those.
Yeah,
It shouldn't have to come from that 1%.
right. She's right.
Alderman Shadle, I think your hand was up for quite a while.
Some time ago it was. You're exactly right, Alderman Stacy. It is more than just the roads. It's the infrastructure under it. The reason the residential roads have not been done is because the water mains are bad. We can't put new blacktop down and then 5 years later tear it up and put new water main in. You do the water main, then you do the road. That's why this is set up the way it is. If we tear into something, we've got to be able to fix it all. We can't just say, let's just go lay blacktop. It takes more than that. Everything has to fall within a sequential order, and if there's not enough money in the CIP to do all the water mains that we have money to do blacktop for, then we want to be able to have the ability to divert some of these road funds to fix the water main so we can fix the blacktop.
Alderman Shado, you're correct. It takes more than that. I understand that totally. So, now you go back and you ask yourself, is 1% really enough? What is 1% really going to do for our streets? Are we going to be in the same position that we're in, except for a couple of streets this time next year?
I believe Alderman Monroe, you had your hand up next.
I'm blown away this evening. I will say there's never a good time to pass a tax, especially in the current economic climate that we're in. I'm going to throw out there that in 2019, Governor J.B. Pritzker raised the gas tax, and it was supposed to pay for the fixing of the roads. Never happened. None of the money flowed here. If we were to pass this tax, we have no guarantee that the city council, the mayor, the city manager, whomever may be sitting in these seats, would actually abide by what we're passing here tonight. And I've got a problem with that because we've got runaway spending in the city of Freeport.
Yes, we do.
People are at their breaking point. Almost 20% of the population of Freeport is below the poverty line. Almost 25% are above the age of 65 years old. They're not going to make any more money. I hate seeing them working at Walmart and other places like that because they can't afford to live anymore. 90% of all of our citizens in this city, inside the city limits, only have a high school education. It's embarrassing. Meanwhile, the Freeport School District went from $45,963,000 in 2008. They're up to $85,561,000. That's an increase of 86.15%. That amount, if you would have held flat, would have paid for all of our roads, all of our water infrastructure, everything else that we're trying to do in this city, and we're questioning what we're doing here tonight with a 1% increase. We can't continue to raise taxes. We can't continue to do to the people what's been happening for years. That's why Illinois is number 2 in this country for people leaving the state. Good, hardworking people are leaving because they're tired of carrying those that don't want to work. And that brings me to the Freeport Township. I've been doing a lot of work around here. They've generated almost $15 million in revenue since 2013. Their rates have gone up 64%. And they're trying to keep people afloat, and we're sitting here trying to raise their taxes, those people that need the money the most. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing we sit in this room and we do this to the citizens of Freeport. It doesn't affect me. You can raise it 5%. I'm still going to buy gas. I'm still going to buy food. But the people that need the money the most, they're the ones that are hurt. The people that are able to go out and work, those that are not handicapped, those that are not over the age of 65 and retired, those that are not disabled, those under the age of 20, those that are in school, those are the people that are getting hurt.
Yeah.
And these runaway rates have got to be stopped. Now, I'm for fixing the roads. I love the plan that the city manager put together, but my problem is that there's no controls anywhere in any of this to hold people accountable. And we're okay with it. I'm not okay with it. And I will tell you right now, my ComEd bill was $317 last month. My water bill for the city was almost $200. Wow. These are fees that we put in. You can call it a fee, but in the heart of things, it is really a tax. It is a tax to fix the roads and the infrastructure, and we've got to figure it out. We can't have $85 million in revenue being spent by this school district, another $1.7 million by this Freeport Township, and 7,000 taxing bodies in the state of Illinois. The most of any state in the union. Beyond California, beyond Connecticut, New York, all of the others. We're the worst. We've got to work together. We've got to figure this out. This 1%, it doesn't do it. We've got to tighten the belt. We've got to make sure that we're doing the right things across all of our different entities, and we've got to hold people accountable, and that takes all of the citizens of Freeport to stand up and say enough. Sorry.
Alderman Sellers.
I just want to say, I do think that there's a lot more conversation that needs to go on for not just us understanding, but the citizens understanding. I do agree that when you look at things and you look at the numbers and you listen to the people talk and give their numbers, is 1% enough, you know? Because I don't want to come back with this same attitudes and anger and the people calling and all that frustration. I want to see the roads fixed also because I'm tired of riding on a roller coaster. But I do think that when we first started out with this whole plan, the water mains, and I do know that they have to be done underneath, but those things were going to be done out of the water, sewer, and the capital fund. And the road, this 1% was mainly going for the roads and wages. And so now I'm kind of like confused because, hey, I'm ready to move forward. But now I'm confused because I got a lot of questions I need to ask about other different things. But that's where I'm feeling right now.
Alderman Sanders.
Thank you, Mayor. Some of the things that Alderman Monroe was speaking on, I concur with a lot of it. I see his perspective on a lot of things. I think there's a lot of confusion going on in this process. And some people initiate certain things during the discussions of past meetings, but they don't stand their ground. They're just waffling pretty much about their stance, and their stand is not steady. And so when I recognize that, then I see how things can change for the worse in people, in influencing the citizens of the city to make certain judgment calls or calls that they weren't so sure about, and then all of a sudden we're flip-flopping on things that we have talked about in past meetings. And so we do need to change that way of thinking and stick to your guns so people know exactly what you mean. Don't get in the fourth quarter and then start changing up on people about your perspectives on how this 1% is being used. And if we don't get a handle on that, it's a thing where we're going to question our own colleagues about what you said during the meetings. And it's out there. It's been talked about. We discussed it. Things that were said shouldn't have never been said. And I'm not going to just elaborate on stuff like that, but I do have bullet points that I had created myself. And it talked about people who had an idea or a thought, and I had to come out and reiterate when I started talking about the referendum. I really feel that we need to hit pause temporarily until we get a handle on this whole thing that we can discuss together, because it sounds like it's being divided for sure in this particular council, and we should be able to talk about it without being in the general public, infuriating them about the waffling that's going on. And so we do need to get this stuff more clearly amongst ourselves and have the discussions that we don't have amongst ourselves, as if though something is contagious amongst us, and we all don't want to get in the same room and talk about what's the best plan, because there's no plan being put out on the table. There is no plan. We hear somebody making these motions, but where did the plan discussion of how we're going to get down to the nitty-gritty of how we want to go forward with this? And some people shouldn't speak out if they don't know what they're talking about. And so these numbers and all of this stuff that we have not got clarity of, we need to stop and put it on pause so I can dissect what has just been said, so I can understand. So if the people wants the referendum, then so let it be. That's where we should be marching forward. We work for the people. We don't work for ourselves. And we don't necessarily have all the best answers to what our problems are. And so we need to hold them reins until we come out of there, come out of the meetings or whatever, and have a clear view to which direction we're going. We don't want it to be split between both parties. We don't want that. And then somebody's going to tip the balancing of what we've been discussing. It's almost like trying to get to a one-sided view from one party to the next party. And so we don't want that to be going on. We want to be able to have a bipartisan debate on this kind of stuff. And so I feel that it does require more discussion, because changes that we have a perspective and the other parties have a perspective, and we need to find out what they are. What makes your party have all the answers and the other party don't have the same answer. We should be walking together as opposed to being divided. And so that's what I see, that's what I hear. We need a drastic makeover and look at this thing from another perspective and give the people what they want, because we're not listening to them. We're not listening to them. Yeah. And so we need to start doing that.
Well, you asked for a plan, and you have several things that were in your packet. And like the manager said at the last meeting, the streets that are named are a sketch, because they're always ready to change because of circumstance. So it's just a sketch. So, Alderman Stacy.
I want to make a motion that we move this to a referendum and that it appear on the ballot in March, and we put this into the hands of the people and allow them to make the final decision.
I concur.
Yes.
I guess my suggestion, if you want to move forward with a referendum, I wouldn't necessarily make your motion that specific, because I have to, I don't know the answer off the top of my head as to which exact election the referendum can go on. There, it might be the
spring
one, but I'm not positive. I wouldn't want you to make the motion and have it not be the appropriate referendum. I need time. I need to be able to verify that. You have to dispose of, I'm talking out loud right now though, because we have this ordinance that's on the table right now for this 1% there. So we have to deal with that. If that's what, if you want to put this, if the will of the council is to put this to referendum instead of adopt this ordinance or take more time to discuss this ordinance, then we have to deal with this motion first, which is, I think, what.
So in other words, you're saying maybe we move this ordinance to the next meeting so it gives time for Attorney Zito to answer your question.
No, if I'm wrong in my thinking, then we will go from there. I would like a vote tonight to move this to a referendum
Madam Mayor?
in regardless of the home rule power.
And I second it.
Okay, so we have a motion
And I
made by Alderman Stacy, seconded by Alderman Sanders to put a referendum on the March ballot.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So what do we do with the motion that's on the table?
That's my point, is that we have an underlying motion that's completely counter to this motion. The other thing too, to put the referendum, it can't just be a motion. These items are put on the agenda or put on the referendum via resolution and or ordinance there. So it's not as simple as just making a motion tonight to put something on the ballot there, because it has to be done by resolution or ordinance there. So that's why I think
So
it's more
what
of
are
a,
you saying? We need to take a vote on the ordinance?
which ordinance are you referring to right now?
The one you're talking about?
I think that if what you want to do is to put this to referendum, then I think we need to deal with the underlying ordinance right now, this 1% sales tax ordinance, and either vote it up or vote it down. And then from there, you can move forward with determining, okay, we want it to go to referendum. Okay, well, there's a process to that. And it starts with, in order to put a question on the ballot for referendum, we have to do that by ordinance or resolution. There, it can't just be a motion to do that. So we would have to then draft that
So it
motion or
could
draft
be-
that ordinance or resolution and then have it show up on another council meeting.
It could be a motion put into creating, but the motion yet to have it.
Sure, you could direct staff to create a motion, or a resolution / ordinance to
No,
put the
that's
question
not
on the
what I'm
ballot.
saying. I'm saying if we were to vote tonight for a referendum, then based upon that vote, we would determine what ordinance, if an ordinance even needed to happen.
An ordinance / resolution is needed in order to put a question on the ballot, okay?
So you're saying I cannot make a motion?
You can make a motion eventually, like, again, number one, I think we need to deal with this underlying ordinance first, one way or the other,
So we can vote on that tonight?
right?
And then
Because if you want to move forward with the referendum, you have to get this out of the way.
I want to move
Okay.
forward with the referendum, so let's get it out of the way.
So, but then, from there, if you want to make a motion to direct staff to prepare the necessary ordinance or resolution to authorize a referendum question, you can make that motion there. That's more of a procedural thing to give staff direction there, and then that item will show up on a future agenda there, and then you guys can vote on the
But it
referendum.
means nothing tonight.
Other than you're showing the will of a majority of the council to move forward with a referendum question.
Okay, so I guess we need to vote on the ordinance?
Alderman Clem.
Okay, guys. Let's stop and think here a little bit, okay? First thing I suggested to you tonight is you've got an alderman gone, okay? Hold it, let me finish, okay? If you want to vote on it, the best you can do is end up with a tie. That goes no place, because American vote, okay? Secondly, why don't you just take and stop and think and say, why don't we just have an additional meeting and make it a meeting of the cow? And Lawyer Zito will take and have all the information on a referendum or whatever at that point, at that period of time, and you can do what you want to do. All I'm saying to you is stop and think. All of a sudden here, this one's going down the drain and this one's coming up. That's fine if you want to do it. All I'm saying to you is please know what you're doing before you do it, number one. And number two, when you see no road work for the next 2 years and everybody calls you, just understand why.
Yeah.
wait.
Alderman Sanders.
Oh, I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
Well, my understanding, Alderman Clem, is that you thought it was a great idea that we do put it on a public referendum. And now when we bring it up again, you opposing it.
Not true. Not
Well,
true.
that's what it
I am
sounds
part
like.
of it 100%. You're
Of a
sitting there changing everybody's mind. Is
Oh,
what you're doing.
yeah, because I
That's
needed to become a referendum, and it's a BS to you as well.
it isn't. If you
Because
wanna do it,
because if
God bless
you're planning this, you're planning the narratives, and we have not even discussed
I'm telling
the
you
whole
the
thing.
truth.
Okay, one person on the floor at a
about it.
time.
Yeah, well, okay. My thing
On
is,
the line, sorry.
yeah, my thing is, out of your own mouth, you wanted to put this to a referendum. And if we have to go back and play the recordings or the minutes of the meetings, then that would be part of your conversation, discussion with the,
I support it 100%. You don't have to debate that.
Okay,
Let's
Oh.
let's go off and do something. Even if it's wrong, you can do it.
well,
okay, all right. So,
I apologize.
Larry, did
Mayor,
you
I
address it?
apologize.
yeah, that's a good point that you just made, because this is the second
might
time
think about
that
it
this is the second time I got interrupted tonight, based upon part of your comments and others. And so I'm not going to be attacked like this in this chamber, because we want to try to get something done for the citizens of Freeport. And if it relates to you trying to stop it or kill it, that's what I'm trying to do until we can get more discussion in. You oppose it. You ready to move forward with the vote of the 1%, and that's not going to happen unless we determine which direction we should go. We should vote on it and go from there.
Manager Boyer.
I'd like to just jump in and say a few things. I think we can all agree that because over the years, little has been done, not nothing, but not enough has been done on the roads. So we all agree that we need to do something about the roads. The next question is, how do we get there? All this is how do we get there? We're going to create a 1%, we're going to ask for a 1% sales tax, and we are going to redo all the roads in Freeport over the next 20 to 25 years. Okay, we're looking at this holistically. We're saying our people need additional wages. We are in a very competitive labor environment right now, and our folks are doing it the most economically possible that can be done. Can we do it all? No, we can't do it all ourselves, because there are roads that require larger equipment, that have very special, that have specialties related to it. And what if we're picking one of the roads, let's say Iroquois is one of those roads. Okay, part of that money is there to replace the water main if we decide the water main's no good. We don't always know what we're going to need until we get into the project. For instance, on Jackson, we started doing our service line replacements. Okay, we got into Jackson, and the water main literally fell apart in our hands as we started doing that. Well, there's no way to prognosticate that. We have a better idea now that we've done a lot of lead services, but we haven't done all the lead services, so we don't know everything. So all I'm saying here is, and I want to also add to this, if we go to referendum, let's just say it can be approved in March. This will take 6 months to get into place before we start receiving revenue. So you won't actually see that revenue until the end of the construction season, 2024, which means it can't really be used until the spring of 2025. I don't think anyone wants to lose a year on road reconstruction projects due to normal calculated time it takes to implement a sales tax. So even if it passes referendum, it would take a whole year. Perhaps council should think about moving this forward until referendum. And then we do this now until we get to referendum, and then we vote on that. And I just want to throw that out as an option.
Okay, so I think we have a motion on the floor that really doesn't have any teeth, right? I mean, it's not.
Actually, I'll have to ask the clerk to read back the Alderman Stacy's motion, because I think it had a second from Alderman Sanders.
Yeah.
And we can then talk about whether or not you want to tweak that or not. Let's just see what was on there, what the motion actually was.
I have a motion for the 1% sales tax to go to referendum on the March ballot.
That's right.
And I think so that motion you can't actually authorize putting something on the ballot tonight, right? Because that has to be done we need that resolution or ordinance document in order to do that. So I think the most you can do tonight is say, I would like to authorize staff to move forward with preparing the necessary resolution or ordinance to put this question to a referendum, okay? And then we'll come back at that meeting, because you have to vote on a resolution or ordinance to actually authorize it. So you can't authorize it tonight, but you can direct staff to move down that road, okay?
But we could take a vote and see where the council is at with that.
Correct, by directing staff to move forward with preparing the necessary resolution or ordinance to put this to referendum, that vote will, if it's, depending on the vote, right, will either show is there support for it or not. Will show support for the referendum or not support for the referendum topic.
Okay, so I thought that's what we were gonna do, but first we had to handle the ordinance that's already on the table.
I think that would be cleaner to do it that way. Because otherwise they're kind of inherently conflicting to each other.
So let's take the
I
vote.
suppose it would just hang out there.
I'll make a motion
guess it would've
to
just hang
table it indefinitely.
Oh, no. So, no, hang on. Stop. There.
Okay, so the question is, do you want to change your motion to reflect staff to draft the ordinance or resolution, whichever way it needs to come?
Yes, but I would also like to vote tonight to see where the council is tonight with even moving it to a,
Right, which we would have to do because it doesn't pass it. It just says, write the ordinance. So, are you clear? Are we all on the same page?
I believe so.
Okay, so your motion, changing with Alderman Sanders, would be to direct staff to write the ordinance or the resolution, whichever is needed according to law, that
To put this 1% sales tax on a referendum ballot.
Yeah.
okay, so with just that, can we take a vote?
But I thought we have to vote first on the ordinance that's on the table.
I think we'll get to that. We'll clean it up after that's there.
The cleanup is what I don't understand, but okay.
I have a question before we go.
Alderman Simmons.
Please, thank you. All righty, so there has been so many motions thrown.
Correct.
I need to figure out if we're left or right now. Here's the deal. If we vote on when we, because it's been seconded, on Alderperson Stacy's referendum, she is asking that motion that it be put to a referendum, but as is, or then do we then stipulate no more of this siphoning 20% for this and 10% for that? Then do we have to stipulate that to be in the ordinance? So I feel as though we kind of putting the cart before the horse, because if we vote for it to go to referendum, we need to know what we want to put to referendum, because it sounds as though we do not agree with it being written as it is. Am I correct? Okay. And so with that, if the vote to put it to referendum does not pass tonight, and we vote to postpone to the cow, referendum is not then dead. It can be brought back up as another motion.
Absolutely.
He's saying no.
All right, so I think to make this, I think I understand where people want to go with this, okay? So this would be my suggestion, okay? I would suggest that you, for the moment, withdraw your motion for the referendum, withdraw your second, okay? For just a moment, okay? vote on the 1% sales tax that's ordinance right now, okay? Let's assume that motion fails, okay? So now it's, that item's dead, okay? No 1% sales tax, okay? At that point, you can make your motion to direct staff to prepare the necessary resolution or ordinance to put the 1% sales tax to referendum, okay? At that point, and that will be then at a subsequent meeting, okay? Because you guys will then have that, or let's just assume it's an ordinance, up for the first reading, right? At that first reading, or you can send it to Cal or whatever you want it is, Alderman Simmons, we can then work through the terms of what that ordinance looks like as far as how the use of funds would be used, and we can draft that in the ordinance at that point there, so there can still be discussion, because you would still have discussion once we draft the initial ordinance and bring it to you for the first time, then you guys would have discussion, say, hey, Attorney Zito, tweak this, tweak that, blah, 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 second read, et cetera, like we do with any other ordinance.
Okay, I will amend it for the moment.
Withdraw it for the moment.
Withdraw it for the moment.
Okay. Oh, you withdraw your second? Okay. So what we have now then is just the original ordinance that's on the agenda for the 1% sales tax.
And I don't know, Alderman Clem, did you?
Don't have a clue. Don't make any.
Well, I was just going to say, I thought you had made a comment about just moving discussions to the next week.
But, you know, there's no interest there, so it don't make a hell of a lot of difference, you know.
For further discussion?
Yeah.
I second it, because I don't know where I'm at.
Okay.
I don't know what I'm.
Come
So-
on.
All right.
Wait, what is that?
Wait, hang on. Stop. Okay, so we've,
1% as it is. Is that what you're saying? What we would vote on right now is the 1%
as presented.
It
per-
is.
Right,
as
presented.
Okay.
As presented. Now, it sounds like Alderman Clem, did you just make a motion to postpone this ordinance as the one that's right now, that's on the agenda, to postpone this to the next COW meeting for further discussion?
I would not, I would make a motion to move this to a committee of the whole meeting, and I don't care if the committee of the whole meeting is tomorrow night. We need to keep going on this if there's not a consensus. That's very simple.
We do have a meeting next Monday for finance.
You do, okay, but the problem there being, okay, remember we originally talked about a time span on this, and the time span was the end of September to get it onto October's thing if we need to. So I would make a motion to have more discussion on this next Monday at a meeting after the finance meeting.
So there's a motion. Is there a second for that motion, which is to have further discussion at a special committee of the whole meeting next Monday?
I second it.
Okay, so that motion has been made and seconded. Mayor, I'm
We-
sorry, I'm kind of
Nope,
taking
that's
over
all
your
right.
job right now. Is there discussion on that
Yes,
motion?
There's discussion, because Alderman Clem, you came in here and your first concern was that Alderman Parker wasn't here tonight. I have missed. I have a very sick husband, and I have missed. I have not been able to be here because I'm at the hospital. But
Did you ever think that could
agenda
happen to
went
somebody
on.
else?
Agenda went on as planned. And so that's why you're doing that, because right now, tonight, we're less one vote. But you said earlier, it's going to be a tie vote. How do you know that? How do you know it's going to be a tie vote? How do you know how others are voting? How do you know that?
Madam Mayor,
You said the mayor have a vote in this.
if there's over 4 votes for an item, she gets a vote. I mean, it's pretty simple. You take a little math there, and it comes up that it'll be 4 to 4, and then what are you going to do with it, if that's the case?
But you didn't say if that's
Okay.
the case.
I didn't.
Okay.
We're getting off at another tangent, which we
Okay,
shouldn't.
so the motion on the floor, made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Sanders, is to move this discussion to next Monday night's special meeting.
Right.
Is there any discussion on that? Alderman Sellers.
The only reason why I have a little discussion is because I will be in California, so I won't be able to participate. So that's my only concern, but I do have more questions, and maybe I can get them out to whoever, but that's my only, so I was just letting you know why I won't be here.
Thank you. So on that particular motion, is there discussion on it?
Hang on. I would like to withdraw my motion simply because if we're going to have a discussion, everybody ought to be here. And that's why I said when Alderman Parker was gone, and by the way, Alderman Parker is sick also. It isn't as he's in Brazil someplace. So that's why I brought it up, was because of the fact that I believe if the council has a major vote, which I believe this is a major vote, everybody should be here. That's all I said. So if you figure you got more people to do it, go ahead and bring up any motion.
Okay, so did you just withdraw your motion?
I withdrew my
Alderman
motion.
Sanders?
I withdraw my motion.
Okay, so now we're back to the original motion of tonight's
Now, this
1%.
time-
Alderman Sanders.
Yes, thank you.
Let's vote.
Yeah, I was going along with the discussion. That's what I initially wanted. I don't care how long it takes because it's been indicated how so important that this motion or this discussion needs to be. And as if though we're being so nonchalant about it, as if though you can feel the tension in the room. And that should not be. People should be here to vote whether they are here or not, but I think we should take out the time to be responsible people to get this thing done and move it on up the road. But that's not what I'm hearing tonight. People sound like they're being frustrated and disgusted about this particular motion that's being made, this ordinance that we're talking about. Maybe we need to take a bereavement. I like that term. But maybe we should. Brother Monroe, Alderman Monroe, brought up some great points. But how much are we absorbing it? And can we get a readout, a printout, or some form of revision of what we've been talking about tonight? Because I don't like the tension in the room, because I feel like we're not getting nowhere, you know. And if we have to keep rehashing this thing back over and over, we'll be at square one again. And so I think everybody should be here to vote their opinions, their expressions, everything. And so my thing is, I don't want to take out of here tonight that we haven't accomplished nothing. So that's where I'm at with this here. And so we need to just do something. We keep the discussion open or whatever the case is. I just don't want to feel like we just wasted a lot of time, is what we just did.
Alderman Sellers, when are you back in town?
Just a second. I will be back I will miss 2 Mondays. I know that.
So you won't be here for the first meeting in October? So we're talking about October 10th, which is a Tuesday, because the city hall is closed on the 9th. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, that's basically what we're doing.
That would be the regular cow.
Yeah, because we can't just go half-heartedly on this.
Alderman Simmons?
I have the floor. This is going on.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I have the floor. Here's the deal. We don't have a motion to move it anymore. Tom withdrew his motion.
I withdrew my
Someone
motion.
will have to remake that motion. At this time, we have a motion to say, yes, we agree to it how it is, or no, we do not. If we do not agree with it as it is, we can say no and bring it back as an ordinance or resolution to be put to a referendum, because we have
voted.
gotten so many mixed messages. Some people for it, some people against it. Some people worry that we get this 1% and we don't see any road improvements or only road improvements in certain areas. That's my concern. We have had different things come up, fees, taxes, that were supposed to be for the fixing of our roads, and it did not happen. And at the same time, with this 1%, we're getting the same. Show you this hand, do what I need to do with that hand. It was supposed to be 1% for roads, and we've already taken 40% of that away from that 1%. So me personally, I say no. As it is written, I know we need our roads done. We all, like, that is just the biggest concern of the city, but it has to actually be done. We cannot keep taking money from people and not doing what needs to be done with it. So if we disagree with the 1%, we can debt it. We can debt it right now, and then bring it back in an ordinance for the people to vote on in a way that is written so that it only goes to the roads.
Absolutely.
Specifically.
Absolutely.
That, I mean, the debate on, because it's written as it's written, so we have to say yes or no. And my opinion at this point is no. We've already skimmed off of it from the roads for other things. Like, it's already happening, and it hasn't even been passed yet.
Let's take a vote.
So we have a motion on the floor. Unless there's another motion to move it.
Madam Mayor, move the question.
Okay, so you're calling the question, which is that we have this vote according to the ordinance.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Can this motion be amended?
No.
Yeah, it can be amended.
Who made it?
Nobody has done it yet. I'm just asking a question.
We have a motion.
There's no motion on the floor right.
No,
Oh.
there hasn't
Other than the
been any
pending-
motion
the
on the
pending
floor, but my question is, can we amend this particular motion or this ordinance?
We have to vote on it.
Yes, you can make an amendment of however you want.
Yeah.
Yes,
and
you
And
can.
it would be on the purpose of extending, instead of killing it, we can make a motion to put an amendment together so we can talk about the discussion of how we adjust the percentage.
Well, that wouldn't be an amendment.
You would
because
just ask-
You're not changing it. You just want to move it to a meeting to have more discussion, period.
Period, yes.
And when would you like that to be?
Whatever you got, Mayor, whatever you can put it, slide it
It
in.
would, according to Alderman Sellers, it'd be the next cow.
Just do it. Please do it.
Just do it, and we're gonna do it just like that, and I second it.
No, no. I'm ready.
But what's your motion, Alderman Sanders?
My motion is that we have further discussions, that we talk about some more details of this.
So you want to move this on to
Next cow.
the next cow?
The next cow.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion made by Alderman Sanders, seconded by Alderman Sellers, to move this discussion to the next cow.
Yes.
Discussion?
Yeah, just discussion.
Move this discussion to the
It
next.
was proposed to me to vote on this as it is.
Correct, and then he just
And-
overrode it.
See, this is what I talk about. This is what I talk about when I say how things are gone over and over and over to get. It was proposed to me to vote on the 1% as is, and I agreed to that. But now you're telling me it's irrelevant.
Well, okay, let
No.
him explain.
So, yes, but then fellow council members have made intervening motions there. So, right, you withdrew your motion, and actually it was Alderman Sanders that withdrew his motion, right? Or his second, excuse me.
Because you asked me to until what was on the table was voted on first.
Correct, but
only.
Correct, but other people have subsequently made intervening motions, which they were allowed to do. to
Well, I put
postpone
my
it.
motion back on the table then.
Well, we got to deal with Alderman Sanders' motion first. There, so.
Well, I tell you what, Attorney Zito, let me take that again. Let's void that. Let's strike.
So, okay, so you're going to withdraw your motion.
So you don't want more discussion?
I do want more discussion, but the thing is, if we had targeted a vote for this ordinance, I'd rather for us to go ahead on and go through that process first. I don't want to hear
Let's
about
go
anything
through the
else.
process first.
I don't want to hear about anything else. You know, people injecting their views and perspectives while we're still in a motion. We shouldn't be doing that, and this is where the confusion comes in at. And so let's take Alderman Stacy's motion and deal with it.
We don't have it.
We don't
Okay,
have it.
so
No.
you're withdrawing, you're
but-
withdrawing your motion
Yes.
to lay this over. Alderman Sellers, you're withdrawing your second on that, correct? So now we're left to the underlying motion, which I think is what Alderman Simmons was saying. Let's just vote on it. And actually, I think Alderman Monroe actually called the question. So I think we should be taking a vote on the motion, the ordinance as is right now.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that.
Yeah.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll as the ordinance is stated?
This is a motion pro the 1%, period.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I don't know the motion.
So it's not a motion. It's the second reading on the ordinance as presented on the agenda.
Okay, and I looked up in the minutes, we have a motion and a second, I don't have who made it.
Well, we don't need it. It's
We
the
don't
second
normally
reading.
say that. Stacy,
No.
Shadle,
Aye.
Sanders,
No.
Sellers,
No.
Clem,
Aye.
Monroe,
No.
Simmons.
No.
I have 2 in favor and 5 against. Do I call the mayor in this case? So the ordinance fails.
Before
Okay, so are we moving on to the next item?
I just have one quick question before we move on. This does not mean it's dead. It can be brought back as an ordinance to be put to referendum. Correct? Am I correct in that?
If there is direction from the council to direct staff to prepare ordinance resolution to put this question to referendum, you can give that direction to us.
I make a motion that it goes back on the table. I only amended it long enough to take this vote.
Correct. So
That it be,
can I suggest that the motion be that you're directing staff to prepare the necessary resolution or ordinance to have the 1% sales tax put to referendum?
yes.
Thank you.
As is?
No.
Okay.
He got to
So if
prepare
you
it.
say that, then wouldn't it be as is?
So
No.
I think,
I can ask you later. We can.
no, so we need a second, first of all, there, and then I can answer your question.
I feel like
Are you telling me that it will automatic be as is?
What will be drafted, I think, as a starting point, right? Because right now I have to draft something, right? I got to put something as a starting point, right, to present to you. So I present it as is to you guys, but it's just referendum instead, okay? Now, when it gets presented to you guys at that council meeting, that's when you can make your motion, say, Attorney Zito, I make a motion, I want you to amend the ordinance to read A, B, C, D, E, F, G instead. I want you to change 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There, if there's a second to change it, then I go and I make those changes, bring it back to you guys there, and then we just start the same process again. But
Why can't we tell you what we want in this ordinance? Why can't
if
we?
you guys are prepared to
make it
do that
written?
now, that's fine. I mean, if you know all the things you want me to put in it right now, I guess we can go through that.
Of course, you know we don't.
Right, so that's why I'm saying I need to put a draft together and then you guys can amend it. You have something to work from.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
But how do we know that even that's what the people would vote for if we don't take a vote on it tonight?
You're taking a vote to direct me to put together an ordinance or resolution to put the question on the ballot, okay?
Yes.
Right? Now, I'm gonna put together a draft, right, of this ordinance.
How soon could we get that draft?
you wouldn't be able to hear it until the next city council meeting anyways.
I understand that.
There, so at that point then, when it comes to you for, let's say, first read or whatever it is, that's when, just like with any of these other ordinances, whether it's like the garden one or whatever, you say, hey, can you guys send it back? Attorney Zito, keep working on it. You got to make a tweak here, make a tweak there. That's when you guys talk about the tweaks that you want made before you, and then it'll be brought back to you at another meeting to vote on or keep talking about or whatever, make whatever additional changes that you guys want to make.
So do we vote tonight?
On just directing staff to move forward with preparing a draft of the ordinance that puts it on the referendum.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
So I think there was a motion, your motion, but I don't think that's actually been seconded yet.
No, and I second it.
Okay. So again, this is just a procedural thing to give staff direction to prepare this ordinance resolution, to send it to referendum.
Can we see a rough draft of that?
You guys, yes, you will get a rough draft of it. If this motion goes through, you will get you'll get it in your packet at the next meeting.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor made by Alderman Stacy, seconded by Alderman Sanders, to direct staff to write something pertaining to referendum.
Yes.
For the next regular meeting.
Yes.
Madam Clerk,
Yes,
could you
ma'am.
please take the roll on that only?
Stacy,
Yes.
Shadle,
No.
Sanders,
Yes.
Sellers,
Yes.
Clem,
No.
Monroe,
No.
Simmons.
Yeah.
I am currently at 4 yeses and 3 nos. Include. Okay, so that motion passes 4-3.
Let's go to the next.
Okay, so just so we're clear, the way it sits, if that referendum is voted to go on the March ballot, say that's what the plan is, that means there's no funding for the entire 24 year, and possibly no funding after that if the referendum fails. Just so everybody's clear, that's what you want to go forward. If that's the will, I just want you to understand that's what that's how it's stopped right now.
That's it.
I'd like to say this.
Larry,
Um,
let's get out of here.
We've been having the last many years getting to this point where we're actually discussing the road conditions and the road repairs and things of this nature, where we're talking about monies to implement into road projects. It's been many, many years, so, I'm sorry. So if we had been waiting many, many years, a couple of years or 1 year shouldn't matter to us. You know,
I'm just throwing it out there.
This is stuff that we shouldn't have to be rushing to get done, even though we're crying, but we're at like a standstill right now.
All right, let's move on to item number 9.
Okay.
We have the second reading of ordinance 2023-41. Could you please read this?
Ordinance approving third renewal of real estate lease agreement with Peter Albert for 103 to 111 South Liberty Avenue, also known as the Raleigh Metal Clad Building.
I'm not sure if that's Manager Boyer or if it's Director Duckman.
Mayor, I'd like to direct that to Director Duckman.
All right.
Thank you, Manager Boyer. Presented this last time for first reading. Nothing has changed. So since 2020, we've had a lease agreement with Peter Albert at the Raleigh building, and this is commonly known as the Metal Clad Building. And so the terms of this lease would be for 1 year for $2,000 per year, and staff recommends approval of the ordinance.
Discussion? Oh, wait, I'm sorry. No, I don't need a motion, do I? No. Okay, Alderman Stacy.
Yes, what's in this building?
It's basically his storage of his equipment, some tools and things like that.
And it's $2,000 only for the whole year?
Yes, we've not had a large amount of interest in renting the space. So I was not here in 2020 when he signed the terms of the agreement, but I've not received any other interest in the space from anyone.
But do people know about this space? And how many other spaces do the city own?
We can certainly direct them to people to find them spaces. I mean, whenever I receive calls for storage, I do everything I can to help people find storage in whatever land use they have. So we currently have a lease agreement with Mr. Albert, and we're looking to renew the terms of that lease.
Alderman Sellers.
Yes, I'd just like to know which $2,000 a year is not a lot, but that's the only thing is just holding his metals and stuff. So who leases the other part of the building?
It's a large complex, so as you know, we're talking about the Raleigh complex overall, much of it is vacant. And so a couple things here. 2 years ago, he was paying $1,000 a year. Last year, we raised it, we doubled it to $2,000 per year. So we have gone through the process of raising the rent. One of the biggest issues we have here that I receive calls in the Raleigh complex is vandalism, people running around. I receive calls about it all the time. And one of the benefits I talk about in the memo is that when you have somebody willing to go in, take a risk, store their materials, and physically have a presence in this building, that pays dividends for somebody being in that space and not keeping some, keeping people vandalism down.
Is this the building on Liberty and
It's the only one wrapped in metal.
across from the glass company?
Liberty and Main Street, yeah.
Okay. The NJROTC used to be in that building. That's where they used to shoot at.
What,
Is that the
20 years?
building?
No, they used to shoot. They shoot at the school district in the basement on State Street.
I know they do now because they were put out of that building.
There hasn't been anything in there forever.
There was a baseball team that practiced.
That's in the other building south of it.
Okay, that's why I'm trying to get my streets together. Okay. I just think that's just cheap.
Alderman Sellers.
So this is the building that's just wrapped in the aluminum, the gray metal. It would be on Main and Liberty. It's Main and Liberty, right? Down there on the end.
Right, the metal-clad building is what we're talking about. That's what we commonly known as.
Any more discussion? Alderman Sellers.
Yes, I'd just like to know the other entities that are in the other part of the building. Do they pay rent, or what do they pay?
Go ahead, sorry.
We don't own those other buildings. If you're talking about the one just south of it, that's owned by Pete Albert. That's his building. We don't own that.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
So he just rents that space just north of him to store his stuff that he doesn't have room for.
Okay.
He got another whole big building. Okay.
One more question.
Okay.
Is it all 3, 4, 5 floors, or is it just one floor?
It's the space of the metal-clad building.
It's the whole building?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
I think it, or is it, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I apologize, it's just the first floor.
Yeah, because there isn't even electricity in the rest of the building. I'm not sure. And I think there's 8 floors.
Oh, okay.
And he doesn't occupy them.
No.
It is. It is just the first floor. I apologize for that. Misspoke.
Are we ready to take a vote? Madam Clerk? Oh.
Sorry. What are we voting for?
We're voting on the ordinance to approve the third renewal for renting that ironclad building. This is the third year.
Okay.
Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Stacy,
Abstain.
Shadle,
Aye.
Sanders,
Aye.
Sellers,
Aye.
Clem,
Aye.
Monroe,
Aye.
Simmons.
I guess I should have asked another question before we took this vote, and I know we're in the middle of the vote, but my question is it rentable to anyone else, should they ask?
What? I can't.
Oh, should anyone else be interested? I know this is renewing it for the next year. Should anyone else show interest in that building, would they have the opportunity to rent it, and for that amount of money? That's my question. No, we're in the middle of a vote. I should have asked it before, but we jumped on the vote real quick.
He's just leasing it, am I correct?
Is it
It's like any other
available?
lease. If you lease something for 12 months, you lease it for 12 months.
I'm saying, yeah, that's my question is it available for public leasing? Like if someone else in the public decides they want to.
No one else has ever expressed interest.
That's not my question. Should they, if we agreed to this one-year lease, following the one-year lease, would someone else have the opportunity to read?
At the moment, I don't believe so. I'll defer to the attorney for this question, but when you're negotiating the terms of a lease, I believe he has a right of first refusal, but I'd have to check the contract language, but I don't believe you can just kick him out.
I don't mean kick him out.
No,
I'm saying we know we're doing this lease. This is for a year lease.
Yes.
I'm just saying, once the lease
Yes.
is up, if someone
Yes.
else were to show interest.
Yes, if at the end of the lease term, someone else also says, I'd be interested in leasing that building, they could have the opportunity, and honestly, at that point, we get to pick and choose. That'd be great.
And charge a little more?
You might get a bidding war
Is that
at that point, but that'd be after a year from now.
Right.
Right.
I understand that.
So how do you vote?
Yeah. Oh, I said yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm just adding. I apologize.
No.
So we have 6 ayes, no nays, and 1 abstention, so the ordinance passes.
Item number 10 is a second reading of ordinance 2023-42. Could you please read this?
Ordinance adding chapters 823 and 1478, Community Gardens, and amending Title 4, Zoning, Chapter 1240, General Provisions.
Director Duckman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, this is a second reading of an ordinance on community gardens, and nothing has changed from the first reading. Went into it extensively the first time, but I am willing to answer any questions before the vote. But just want to remind everyone that this did go to our Planning Commission hearing on August 10th, and it was recommended for approval with a vote of 5-0.
Is there discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Stacy,
Yes.
Shadle,
Aye.
Sanders,
Aye.
Sellers, Clem,
Aye.
Monroe, and Simmons.
Aye.
The ordinance passes 7-0.
Item number 11 is the adoption of Resolution 2023-65. Could you please read this?
Resolution to approve sidewalk reconstruction on State from Douglas to the South Alley.
Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Your Honor. As discussed previously, on August 29, 2023, LT Construction of Rockford presented the city staff with a contract for $29,500 to perform sidewalk replacement downtown on State Street from Douglas to the alley behind the Art Plaza. LT Construction's Workforce Development Program installed over 2 miles of sidewalk in Rockford in 2023. And as a similar project, LT is owned by Tank Weathers. He is a minority-owned concrete construction contractor, and the city is estimated, working with the Boys and Girls Club, approximately 6 youth that would benefit from the training and the hands-on experience. The estimated project would take about 3 days, and staff is requesting the city move forward with ordinance 2023-65 in the amount of $29,500, of which
approximately 10,000 would be provided or would be matching funds with the Art Plaza.
Is there a motion to adopt this resolution?
I make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second?
We have a motion made by Alderman Stacy, seconded by Alderman Clem. Discussion.
As you know, I said that I would abstain because I didn't know the percentage of where the money was going, so I know that's me.
Is there any other variables that we're leaving out, should be discussed and talked about, how the children are going, well, they're not children, but the youth, or I would put it, are going to be subjected to their work orders, or how do we have a visual perspective on how these children are going to be operating? And have we have examples of these kinds of projects for other children or other people, youth wants to get into this program? Is it going to be open wide to the public, general public of youth to learn? Is it going to be classrooms or things of that nature that's going to take place, or is it just hands-on kind of thing?
It's a hands-on project in collaboration with the Boys and Girls Club, who do other training with some of the youth in the community, doing various job skills and that kind of thing. So it's kind of an extension on that, working in collaboration with the Boys and Girls Club and Tank to do the instruction. So it is open for any youth that are participating in the Boys and Girls Club program.
No private youth clubs are going to partake in this event?
Well, this was a starting place. This is we've been trying to get something together for the last year to create training opportunities for youth in the community. So this is just a starting point. This is just like, we want to get started with this one, but we want to do more of this in the future.
Expand.
Yes. So it's kind of a proof of concept, if you will.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Stacy.
Yes.
Shadle.
Aye.
Sanders.
Aye.
Sellers.
Abstain.
Clem.
Aye.
Monroe.
Aye.
And Simmons.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted 6-0 with one abstention.
Item number 12 is the adoption of Resolution 2023-67. Could you please read this?
Resolution approving an Illinois Elevator Safety Program agreement with the Office of the State Fire Marshal.
Director Duckman.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Illinois Office of the State Fire Marshal conducts elevator inspections throughout our state. The State Fire Marshal can authorize municipalities to conduct elevator inspections through an elevator safety program agreement. And under the proposed agreement, the City of Freeport hires a consultant to issue building permits and for the construction and inspection of our elevators. So the city already entered into agreement with our state fire marshal in 2019, and this expires, it expired September 17th, 2023. And since 2019, the city has been working with Elevator Inspection Services and has had great success working with them. They've been efficient, they've been effective, they're great to work with, and in order for us to continue that relationship with Elevator Inspection Services, we need to sign this proposed agreement with the state fire marshal. So with that in mind, staff recommends approval of the ordinance, or in this case, it's a resolution.
Is there a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Monroe, seconded by Alderman Sellers. Discussion?
Yes.
Alderman Sanders?
Yes, Mayor. Is that for elevators all throughout the city, or is it just for a designated area?
No, it's the city of Freeport. Any elevator in the city of Freeport.
Gets the inspection?
Yes.
Do we get the bill?
What happens is we charge the client, and then actually elevator inspection services takes a portion of that, and then the city receives about $1,000 a year after elevator inspection services has been paid for their services.
Okay.
So we actually make money on this.
So where do we kick that back to?
The general fund.
General fund?
Yes.
And,
The same place that any building permit would go to in my department.
And they report to your office?
Elevator inspection services does report to my office, yes.
Yeah, and we have not seen, have we accumulated a balance on that?
I did. When I presented this, it's a separate ordinance. It went in June of 2022, and I can send you that email, but I did an analysis annually of how much the city of Freeport took in revenue from, I'm calling it EIS, Elevator Inspection Services, and I'm going off my memory, but it's around, I think, $1,000 a year.
Do we include maintenance?
Well, here's the deal. An elevator inspection service, you have a required annual inspection, and then if you're going to build a new one, we inspect it. So that inspection would require that the professional elevator inspection service is going to look at that elevator and say, yes, you need to maintain this, you need to maintain that specific item.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? Yeah, it does require to make sure that they're maintaining their elevator.
Yeah, because I think personally, something of that nature should be maintained throughout the year on a scheduled programming for maintenance, that kind of thing.
We do. This ordinance isn't related to annual inspections of elevators.
Okay, good.
Alderman Stacy?
How many elevators do we have?
I can get you that information because I have to provide that to the state fire marshal and also to the elevator inspection services, but I can get that information to you.
Okay.
I can get that to you.
Cool.
All right, Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Stacy,
Aye.
Shadle,
Aye.
Sanders,
Aye.
Sellers,
Aye.
Clem,
Aye.
Monroe,
Aye.
Simmons.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted 7-0.
Item number 13 is the adoption of Resolution 2023-68. Could you please read this?
Resolution approving addendum to agreement with USG Water Solutions for Burchard Tower maintenance and repainting with leaf logo for 2024.
Manager Boyer?
Thank you, Your Honor. City staff is scheduling elevated tower painting at Burchard Tower for the spring and summer of 2024, depending on the weather patterns. When Burchard Tower was built, the city decided to put this structure into an annual maintenance contract with Utility Services Company for inspection and painting systems that the city funds annually through the utility maintenance budget. This maintenance program has been in effect since 2010 and it is now time for the first full repainting cycle. In the tower structure maintenance agreement, changes to the water tower logo are considered an additional cost item as communities change them regularly to new designs that can't be identified during the original contract agreement. The city of Freeport has adopted our new leaf logo, and it has been requested the tower be changed to it in 2024 during the repainting cycle. Utility Service Company has agreed to install 3 of these large-scale Freeport leaf logos for an additional $27,967. The city plans 1 logo on the south at the Culver's McDonald's area, 1 logo on the northeast on the Cub Food side, and 1 to the northwest at the Reed Park area as the only visible locations on the tower. The rest of the tank cleaning and repainting costs is covered under the annual installment payment plans. The cost to fully repaint the tank outside of the maintenance agreement is estimated at around $700,000. This painting change in logos will be budgeted in the 2024 utility maintenance budget, and staff requests City Council approve this logo modification with Utility Service Company.
Is there a motion to adopt? Okay, so I guess it's dead. There you go. Nobody wants to?
Move
All right,
on.
then we're moving on.
Yep,
It's
let's
not-
go
it's
to-
not,
No, there's
No
nothing for
discuss.
discussion if there's not going to be motion.
Right, we gotta
Oh,
go
my
to the next
goodness, I wish we had opened it up for discussion. Discussion.
No.
No.
Did you
All
say
right,
what time
item
it
number
is?
14 is adoption of Resolution 2023-69. Could you please read this?
Resolution authorizing support and commitment of $250,000 grant from Safe Routes to School program through the Illinois Department of Transportation for traffic signals and lights at school crossings.
Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Your Honor. The city of Freeport has several school crossings that are dated and require equipment repairs and replacements for the safety of school children. The engineering team has found a potential state grant opportunity to fund the equipment replacements. IDOT has a Safe Routes to School program that has a grant opportunity for potential equipment replacements of school crossing equipment. New lighted systems installed are generally solar-based replacements. This grant, if awarded, could be utilized for up to $250,000 of equipment replacement, and if required, a potential match of $30,000 if awarded to funding. The city would plan to fund this match with general street funds in the 2024 budget cycle, and staff recommends City Council to pursue this grant opportunity with our engineering firm.
Is there a motion to adopt this resolution?
So moved.
We have a motion made by Alderman Clem. You did? Motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Stacy. Discussion? Alderman Sellers?
I know that, so we'll get a $250,000 grant, right, from the Safe Route, and then we have to match it with the $30,000, right? Is that what you're?
That's correct.
I know that Alderman Monroe always brings up the school district. Are they willing to help with that $30,000, or no, that's just on us because it's city streets?
I'm sure that we could
understand
approach the school district on that, but it is city infrastructure, so it would be the city's responsibility. But if the school district was willing to help out, we'd certainly accept it.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Alderman Stacy?
Have they helped out in the past?
I can't think of an example recently. I haven't been here all that long, and we haven't done a whole lot of projects that involve the school district. So I'm not 100% sure.
That answer is probably no, just because like they had the opportunity to help us on Empire and they chose not to.
And
On
the
on the sidewalks and stuff there by
mayor is
the school.
absolutely correct.
When we redid that.
So where would we get this 30,000 from?
Well, while we're in the budget planning cycle, we make sure that we budget it for, for the 2024.
But from where?
$250,000 grant.
30,000. Where would?
We'd budget it in the street budget somewhere, under traffic signals.
Doesn't the grant subsidize for the 30,000? Oh, I'm sorry.
I just want to say that right before school started, I saw a lot of work going on the corner of Garden and Miami, I think it is. And a lot of cutting down in personal property. And so I went and asked the guys, hey, what's going on here? And we're just cutting down some trees. I said, oh, and this is through a plan? And then he went to explain that it was to clear the areas for the school so that signs and this and that are not blocked. Too often have I seen cars run through those stop signs because they haven't always been there. And I was grateful and kind of a little overjoyed to see them the city putting that into the grade school areas and cleaning up the signs before school started. I want to say that before, but it just came back.
Alderman Sanders?
Yeah, I learned, from my experience, I should say, I've learned that if any work that needs to be done adjacent to the school and the city, I think the city majority of the time clean up the mess and fix the road and the sidewalks and things like that. But then I learned is that the city, the school district regional areas of this area, they don't feel as if they have to do anything for the city, with the city, or collude with the city on any kind of infrastructure of of the school area. And when I realized their position on these types of matters, then the city ends up holding the bag whenever any kind of construction work goes on, or cleanups, or whatever happens. But when they're doing construction and things like that, I don't know if we are consulting with them about their cleaning up their mess, and then the city ends up doing it with a cost. It costs the city to do these kinds of things, and so I'm just saying, are we aware of that? Are we taking these things into together? Are we taking it serious that their attitude is that they don't have to do anything?
Okay, so Alderman Sanders, we understand your point, but the resolution is about this $250,000 possible grant. So
it's
we have to be back on track for, are we supporting it?
Yeah, I understand the $250,000 grants and things like that, but are we forfeiting our position with this grant when they're the ones that are benefiting from it?
No. No.
They benefit from that $250,000
Manager Boyer?
grant.
I'll be happy to speak with some of the leadership there and see.
Yeah, because we need to know that, because being fair across the board is where we're at with any kind of revenue support with these programs. It's just only trying to be fair with it.
If there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Stacy,
Aye.
Shadle,
Aye.
Sanders,
Aye.
Sellers,
Aye.
Clem,
Aye.
Monroe,
Aye.
and Simmons.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted 7-0.
Item number 15 is the adoption of Resolution 2023-70. Please read this.
Resolution ratifying an emergency repair at Clark and Van Buren completed by Fisher Excavating.
Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Your Honor. On May 8th, the city of Freeport experienced a severe sewer collapse on Clark Street near Galena Avenue in Van Buren. The intersection has a large sectional collapse of the pavement and was deemed a safety hazard to traffic. Consulting with the engineer and the city utility staff, the needed repairs were too deep and extensive for our crews to handle internally. The failure already was in the IDOT, or was nearing the IDOT right-of-way, state right-of-way, requiring a special permit. The city staff approved emergency sewer work on Clark Avenue for a main sewer trunk area to repair the collapsed piping in the sanitary sewer network. Upon exposing the sewer main, it was found to be in extremely poor condition. The existing clay pipe had several spiral cracks and 20-foot crushed areas that was backing up waste flow for blocks. Temporary sewer repairs were made to get the pipe back into service. As a permanent parts were reordered. In the ensuing days, there were more failures in the area connecting to this brittle section upstream and downstream. Final repairs were made by Fisher on the pipe on May 23rd and 4th, respectively, when materials were available. Coordinating sewer lining of the area was then completed on this section, and street asphalt paving was completed following this action. Staff is requesting City Council ratify this emergency repair for fissures that had already been completed.
Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Alderman Monroe, seconded by Alderman Shadle. Discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Stacy,
Aye.
Shadle,
Aye.
Sanders,
Aye.
Sellers,
Aye.
Clem,
Aye.
Monroe,
Aye.
and Simmons.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted 7-0.
Item number 16 is approval of the bid for bid opening on September 14th for the Pearl City Road rehabilitation. Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Your Honor. The City of Freeport had held design plans prepared to reconstruct curves and repave Pearl City Road in Freeport. High average daily traffic demand along with heavy width contributions contributed to the poor condition of the road, which has placed this project on a priority list for a number of years. IDOT funding requires the two corners to be reconstructed to accommodate a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit. This project is completely dedicated to fixing the roadway area and correlating drainage. This project was on the approved 2023 street project list. On September 14th, 2023, the city held a bid opening for the project. 3 area contractors pulled the plans and specification. However, only 2 local contractors submitted bids. Helm Civil of Freeport was the low bidder at $1,104,609.80. This low bid was below the engineer's estimate. City plans to fund this project through the MFT IDOT Rebuild Illinois Street Improvement funds. It is staff's recommendation to the City Council to award the bid to Helm Civil in the amount of $1,104,609.80 so that the project can move forward immediately after the 8-day bid protest period.
Is there a motion to approve the bid?
I'm sorry. There's been an internal error. You will be...
Is there a motion to approve the bid?
So move.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have
I do have a
motion
question,
made-
Madam Mayor.
We have a motion made by Alderman Sellers, seconded by Alderman Clem. Alderman Monroe.
Yes, ma'am. City Manager, is Helm looking to outsource any of this, or are they doing all the work themselves?
As I understand it, they're doing it themselves.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Alderman Stacy.
Are we talking about out by the roundabouts?
Not quite that far, but yes, it's basically on the east side of the roundabout, probably 100 feet to the east of the roundabout, from there to Empire.
Alderman Stacy.
This is an example of what I mean when I say roads that's been looked since our neglected residential areas being redone and redone and redone. We don't have nothing for our neglected residential areas. However, we got 1 million plus for something that's not that old. I'm just saying.
Alderman Sanders.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I've driven that road many times. Matter of fact, I worked in that area many times. And I can't see for the life of me why are we pumping 1 million plus into an area with concrete, redesign, reconstruction, or construction, not reconstruction, but construction. I can't see the relevance and the purpose of sticking this in that area because there's no real traffic with humans that is utilizing those sidewalks or those areas where we're talking about putting 1 million plus in there. So my thing is, how do we get to that point? What recommendation came to us to allow us to be able to debate it or to discuss it? None of those things that I remember happened since I've been sitting here, and I have not heard of anything brought up to reading that portion of it. And how did we get there? That's what I'm trying to figure out. When did we decide it to do such a thing, Brother Boyer? And I hope. Let me finish. I hope that these kinds of decisions just didn't pop off in the air and then it landed up on our table for whatever discussion it was supposed to be about. We don't have the detailed factual reasons why this is happening.
Manager Boyer.
I was going to say something.
Yeah, just to answer your question. So this was identified in the 2023 road reconstruction projects. It's kind of late to the construction season due to work that needed to be done, or at least some engineering that had to be looked at about the angle of the bank angle of the curves. This road used to be in the county, but it was brought into the city before before all of us were here, and it is in very degraded shape, and it does not include any implications on city utilities. So there's no water main that needs to be replaced there. It fits a lot of categories. Plus, it is very highly traveled. I think average daily traffic flow is like 6,000 vehicles per day, maybe more, maybe a little more like 10, but it's quite heavily traveled.
Yeah, well, heavily traveled is not the same as pedestrians utilizing that particular project or that program that we're about to, you're talking about implementing.
Darren, do you want to add to that, please?
Just to clarify, none of the money spent on sidewalks is completely road reconstruction in that segment. Not a nickel is going into any sidewalks. It's all road pavement. Pearl City Road is 80,000-pound road, so it requires a lot of extra mix put in and milled out to actually fix the roadway. IDOT completely funded this through the rebuild money, so it is no money to Freeport. If you guys recall, this is RBI money that we went and got for this project and the next project that's right behind it. So this money is slated for an IDOT-approved project. It had to be done and approved by IDOT, which it was done last season, and it took until just recently to get it through IDOT ranks to get it to bid, and that's where we're at. So this is completely going into the road mat from Park Street all the way to the Kiwanis roundabout.
Thank you, Eric.
Alderman Sellers?
I just want to say, we're in a, voting on who we're going to have the bid, because we've already voted to say yes to the.
It was a part of the project.
Thank you, yes, that's just.
So it's,
Correct.
are we
The
gonna
vote is
accept
just
the
to
lowest
approve the bid.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the bid was under our engineering estimate significantly.
So we have a motion on the floor to approve the bid as stated. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Stacy? Shadle?
Abstain.
Sanders?
I abstain as well.
Sellers?
Aye.
Clem?
Aye.
Monroe?
Oh my God, aye.
Simmons?
I don't want everybody to cuss at me. Aye. Never mind, I had a question, but
Let me just call the vote here, 2, 4, 5. 5-0 with 2 abstentia, and the motion passes.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 17, which is another approval for bid opening as well on September 14th for Sullivan, Greenfield, Navajo, and Harrison improvements. Manager Boyer.
So the city of Freeport prepared design plans to reshape and pave on Sullivan Drive and South Greenfield, Navajo, and Harrison Streets. This project has been on the priority list for a number of years with poor condition of the asphalt. This project is completely dedicated to fixing the roadway pavement areas only. Utilities in this section are in good shape, and the project was on the 2023 street approved project list. On September 14, 2023, the city held a bid opening for this project. The engineer had 3 area contractors pull plans and specifications, however, only had 1 contractor submit bid. Helm Civil of Freeport was the low bidder at $553,509.25. The low bid was slightly above the engineer's estimate and within contingency levels. The city plans to fund the construction through, again, MFT, IDOT, Rebuild Illinois funding. Funds that are on hand for the street improvements. It is the staff's recommendation to the city council to approve the bid to Helm Civil in the amount of $553,509.25 so the project can move forward.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
A motion made by Alderman Monroe, seconded by Alderman Sellers. It's the same thing as the last one we just did. All the same projects, same funding. Darren?
Just to clear up any confusion, this money is again 100% in the roadway, nothing outside of the roadway, no sidewalks. It's completely removing the pavement, fixing the base repairs, and paving it.
Madam Clerk, can you please take the roll?
Stacy?
Aye.
Shadle?
Abstain.
Sanders?
Abstain.
Sellers?
Aye.
Clem?
I have to clarify this simply because I do not vote on jobs that only have one accepted bid on it. I believe it's very easy to get the other bids from the people that are out, and we should have done so. But making this become a project rather than going down the dumper, I'll vote for it. Aye.
Monroe?
Aye.
Simmons?
I agree with that, but
I'm sorry, that was an aye at the end of that, okay. So we have 5 in favor, 0 nays, and 2 abstentions, so the bid passes.
And item number 18 is reports from department heads. I'm not sure, Director Richter, are you still there? No, okay. Community development.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Wanted to make one quick announcement. Community Economic Development Department, we just received award for $300,000 through a Strong Communities Program grant, which gives us $300,000 to use towards demolitions of blighted properties. I wanted to bring it up because in 2022 we had $50,000 awarded, and in 2021 we had $50,000 awarded. So through the hard work of our staff, in particular Lorena Rothel helped out on this. We also collaborated with Region 1. We were able to get 6 times the amount of money for demolition. So pretty big, pretty exciting announcement there.
All right.
Well done.
All right.
When can that start being spent?
Wow, okay. Yes, I have a meeting October 18th on that.
Good, all right. We'll look forward to hearing what that is.
I
Alderman
bet.
Clem?
Question if I could, Wayne.
Yes.
And simply on that, I see you tore down one yesterday or today, it looks like on Douglas Clark, one of those?
Yes.
Okay. I've had a couple people ask me that a lot of them have been let but haven't been torn down yet.
It's been torn down. Okay.
And I said, it's probably just due to road work, and it could be by a company that's doing road work, whether Fisher was in them or Summer. Have we got some that have been awarded, especially like on Hancock Street, there's some that haven't been torn down yet?
Yes, we are working through, I don't want to say a backlog, but we have awards like we're talking about, and they're moving forward.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Communication?
Nothing tonight.
Fire?
No report this evening.
Police?
I have no report.
Library?
Nothing tonight.
IT? City manager? Oh, I'm sorry, I missed Public Works. I'm sorry about that.
Recap of some street work we have going on. So we're a little short-staffed, obviously, at Public Works. We're going to try to get Center Street paved yet this week for the binder course down. Chicago Avenue from Galena to South should be right behind it. And then we should be following up with Ridge Street, which should be the final segment for this season, probably towards the end of October. Okay?
Thank you. Sorry about that, City Manager.
No report tonight.
And I don't either, so we'll move on to council announcements. Alderman Stacy? Alderman Shadle?
Nothing tonight.
Alderman Sanders?
Nothing tonight.
Alderman Sellers?
I just want to say I'm very happy to hear we got that money to demo. And then I also want to say that if I'm not here to give any vote, the line item with the 1%, I will be watching very closely to make sure that money is used the way it's supposed to be used.
Alderman Clem?
I just want to announce neighborhood watch meeting next Tuesday night, 6 o'clock at Schwartz Chapel. Please come if you got any questions or anything. Make sure you bring them. Thank you very much.
Alderman Monroe?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Alderman Simmons?
I normally don't, but Just this past week, there was a little bit of a trash fire on Empire Street, and I just want to commend the fire department because they got there super fast as if it was a 5-alarm fire. And, you know, the chief just got out with his fire extinguisher. But still, the response time was super. I wanted to commend y'all for that because that was great.
Item number 16 is public comment. I know we had the gentleman that had signed in. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Gerald Podraza, Galena, Illinois. Been working on revival of passenger rail service for a long time. I had been driving through here since 1975. Shopped at Sears and Roebuck. You remember that store? Any of you? Anybody on the city council here ever take the Black Hawk? It stopped running in '82. Anybody ever take that train?
Did you go to Rockford?
To Chicago. Rockford to Chicago. Okay. I sent an email to everybody on the city council the other day, and I am just going to read this resolution. We are looking to have a meeting in town here with Congressman Sorensen and his legislative team. I'm submitting this for your consideration, and possibly somebody will make a motion to adapt this resolution. Be it resolved, Freeport City Council fully endorses a federally or state of Illinois funded feasibility study that will evaluate, determine economic viability, and everyday usefulness of an extension of Metra rail passenger service, Rockford to Freeport. Now, in 1900 to 1920, whether you all are not aware of this, there was an interurban service between Freeport and Rockford, and it was used very actively. This study should address two options: use of existing Canadian national route or restoration of the old Freeport to Rockford interurban route, now an inactive bike path. Now, there's special federal money available for this kind of operation because it is an interurban service, and that is how the state of Illinois was able to get the extension of the Metra service from Elgin to Rockford. Now, some of you have been opposed to any kind of rail service for years, so we have invited people all along the way from this community to participate in different advisory groups, et cetera. I would submit this to you, that this discussion that has been going on here today, that this kind of a project goes directly to the essence of some of these issues that are coming up in this city council. One is, a project like this would be federally funded. There would be at least 20% minority set aside. It would have to involve individuals in workforce development, and there is an outstanding apprenticeship program that's going on here right now. So that
Gerald,
kind
your
of
time has
apprenticeship
expired.
would feed. Thank you.
Thank you. Move on to item number 17 is executive session. Madam Clerk, could you please read that for the record?
Pursuant to 5 ILCS 122C1, the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity.
Is there a motion to enter into executive session?
So move.
A motion made by Alderman Sellers, seconded by Alderman Clem. Madam Clerk, do we need, we can do voice. Roll. Can you do a roll call, please?
Stacy? Shadle?
No.
Sanders? Sellers?
Aye.
Clem? Monroe? Simmons? The motion passes 6 to 2. That's not right. 5 to 2.